After nearly 24 hours of flat-out racing, the season-opening Rolex 24 at Daytona came down to a one-lap shootout. Scott Pruitt takes the win. It's a Ganassi 1-2. Today, the scene shifts a little further south to Homestead-Miami Speedway, a track that helped put Grand Am on the map. And they bash, they continue to bash. 2011 begins the way 2010 finished, with the same question being asked: who is going to stop the Ganassi BMW juggernaut? Will former Daytona prototype champion teams SunTrust and Gainsco retaliate after being pushed around by Ganassi at the Rolex 24? Having won twice at Homestead, can the legendary Brumos Porsche capture its first Grand Am GT win? And what about Patrick Dempsey's Mazda in GT at the Rolex 24, scoring the team's best Daytona result? Will he ascend to the top step of the podium? It's time for Sports Cars on Speed. Grand Am is here. Whether it be the championship finale or an early season sprint, Homestead-Miami Speedway has always played an integral part in the Rolex Sports Car Series. Grand Am returns to the track for the first time in over a month. This is the Grand Prix of Miami. Hi folks, Lee Diffie along with Speed's sports car experts Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader. Welcome to Southern Florida for round 2 of the championship on a day where 2 big questions need to be answered. Dors, first of all, can the 01 be stopped? Who will stop them? Calvin, how do you get through this one? How do you get to the end? How do you manage your program on a track that's pretty challenging and not offering much grip? Dors, you first.
Well, it's like Jimmy Johnson winning 5 consecutive championships. Ganassi team can be beat, but they don't make any mistakes to beat them. You can't make any. You have to run perfect races.
And Lee, you mentioned the fact this is a very challenging racetrack. It certainly is, and historically been very, very tough on tyres. So all weekend long, these teams, the drivers, the engineers have been working very hard to really make those tyres last a little bit longer. Typically, fuel determines when these guys come down pit lane. Today it'll be tyres.
It's going to be very tough, this one. Don't forget, Grand Am is all about 2 classes on the track at the one time. Let's start with Daytona prototypes and Brian Till.
Well, Scott Pruitt and Memo Rojas let their championship intentions be known by winning at the Rolex 24 at Daytona just last month. Alex Gurney, John Fogerty did not finish quite so well with a 12th place finish, but Fogerty back with a vengeance here at Homestead in qualifying. It took John Fogerty no time at all to get up to speed. In fact, in 2 laps, qualifying was done. What does that do for John Fogerty? Well, it gives him certainly a great starting position, but more importantly, perhaps, Calvin, as you mentioned, it gives him fresh tires to start this event. Other contenders this weekend, the 90 Spirit of Daytona Coyote Chevrolet. Paul Edwards behind the wheel in qualifying. They'll roll off third. Remember, they had a great run at the Rolex 24 until mechanical problems set them back. Ricky Taylor had mechanical issues in practice, but he'll start 4th in his SunTrust machine. And then the 77 Kevin Doran's team, somewhat rejuvenated this weekend. Brian Frizzell behind the wheel. They'll roll off in 5th. That's the story in Daytona prototypes. For more on the GT class, let's go to my partner in the pits, Chris Neville.
Brian, it was Porsche finishing 1-2 at Daytona, but this weekend not looking as strong. The quickest of the German make back in 7th on the grid. But you look at row 2, it's 2 Mazdas, very quick. Mazda won here last year, quick again this weekend. The quickest of the Mazdas, that 41 Dempsey Racing with the young Dean Cameron behind the wheel. And then look at that front row. We got a bow tie front row. Boris said in a brand new wheeling Corvette on the outside, and Jan Magnussen giving Stevenson Motorsport and Camaro their first pole in GT competition. Dorsey?
Thank you, Chris. Let's take a look at our Burger King track map. Homestead-Miami Speedway, 2.3 miles length. 9 turns on that infield, has very little grip. 2 of these turns are the banking, and thanks to our friends at iRacing.com, let's take a look. 5th gear there, that's the 5 on the dash, 161 miles per hour as we go through the 20-degree bank, headed down toward the start-finish line. Now, down into turn 1 is probably the trickiest part of this entire track. Getting brake down from 180 miles an hour almost across this flat. You'll see a lot of action here into turn 2. That's where the people have most of the trouble on this racetrack. It's very, very tight, very low grip. We're going to see a lot of action here today.
You'll be able to see the starting grid rolling across at the top of your screen just to show you exactly a little more depth in this field of who is where. And it is an interesting looking field, and we will go through a lot more detail as this broadcast progresses. Let's get you straight to the Continental Tire. Keys to the race. Heat will be a factor. It is in the low 80s here today in southern Florida, which is considerably warmer than when we tested here late last year, and also this race this time last year.
And the tyres will be the #1 factor. I feel the drivers have to really manage those tyres. They can't afford to abuse them early, and then strategy with the teams. Will they make an extra stop for an extra set of tyres?
This racetrack used to have a lot of yellow flags. There's not any anymore because there's no gravel traps. Here's our onboard 4-pack.
Start with the number 10 SunTrust Chevy-powered Dallara. Another Dallara alongside the 77 Office Depot machine with Brian Frizzell on board. The number 40 Dempsey Racing Mazda and another Mazda alongside us, the defending GT class champions for Speed Source and Emil Asentato behind the wheel. This will be the 10th time that the Daytona prototypes have raced here. We had 2 races in 2004, one in the spring, one in the fall, and it's really starting to gain some history and some momentum. It's a reduced field from the Rolex 24, but that is the case each and every season. And we've got the old sparring partners sharing the front row. Gainsco and Ganassi. And the Gainsco boys are desperate to get the better of this circuit that has beat them year after year after year. And Fogarty gets a nice jump. He sees the green first.
Look at Ricky Taylor. He comes to the outside. Can he make a move down into turn 1? And here we see the GT start,
and
led by Magnussen.
Edwards got chopped down there, too. Here is the GTs, like you said, Calvin. Down into...
Left of screen, Paul Edwards on the inside of Ricky Taylor. That's a great move. The Chevy-powered Coyote. And Ricky comes back. Can't quite get the number 10 car in there.
Watch these cars on the infield skate around because there's no grip on this. Very flat, no camber to these corners at all. And the cars really spin the tires. That's what hurts the tires so much at this racetrack.
Look at the Red Dragon. It's come alive early. Fogarty, for so often we've seen him lay down those awesome qualifying laps. He increased his record with poles here yesterday, and he's got a great jump on Memo Rojas to take the pressure off. He can now run his lines, focus on lap time and managing those tires early.
Look further back, the black and red Office Depot Dallara. Brian Frizzell used to drive in the car that he's trying to get by, the SunTrust machine, and he'll want to prove just how good that Doran machine is. We ride with Frizzell now.
Kevin Doran's car ran really well all through the practice sessions, all the way up to qualifying. This car's been in the top 3. I expect a lot out of it.
Yeah, they really thought they were a contender for the pole with Brian Frizzell doing the qualifying chores. They're going to do a double tire. So here you see Ricky Taylor really loose there as the tires start to come up to pressure and temperature on this opening lap.
Car 30 and GT, Ross Smith will be served a penalty, initiating a pass and a move before he got to the start-finish line. Here is car 23, Mark Blundell. Yes, the former F1 and Champ Car driver is back. He won't be doing a full season in Grand Am, but it's terrific to see him here with Michael Valiente.
And that deal came together very late. In fact, Tuesday morning, they still weren't sure whether they're going to be here. Then the deal was struck. And they told Mark, get on a plane, you're going to be running again this weekend. But look at this, Brian Frizzell, he used to run for SunTrust. Now he takes the position away from Ricky Taylor, up to 4th spot.
Well, I don't know if Ricky Taylor's tires are not up to temperature yet or not, but that car is really loose on the infield, but also we saw it on the banking.
Spoke to Wayne Taylor this morning. He said Ricky's going to be starting this race on well-worn tires again. We're talking about this tire management. They've got to manage with these Daytona prototypes. They only get 5 sets for the complete weekend, but look up front, Lee. Rojas closing in on Fogarty.
He's closed the gap. Paul Edwards is doing a nice job, but perhaps the quickest car out there at the moment is the 77 car. More on the 10 though for now with Brian.
Calvin, just listening to radio communication from the 10 crew to Ricky Taylor, I heard the crew say, these are the tires you're going to have for a while. You're just going to have to deal with them right now.
And I should say right now, Brian, that this is the racetrack. It's not the tires' fault. This racetrack here in Florida was paved with the aggregate that has seashell in it. Now that the infield has not been repaved in many, many years, those shells have come to the top, and they actually are very abrasive. They just grind off the tire, no matter what kind of tire it is.
From Daytona prototype to GT, Jan Magnussen still leads the way in the 57 Stevenson Camaro. Can you believe it was the first series pole position for this team? They've been vying for the championship year after year for perhaps the last 2 to 3 years, and it was a surprise that they grabbed that pole. Much satisfaction for the guys, and the first for Camaro in GT competition as well. There's the split. It's another Chevy-powered machine right behind in the hands of Boris Said, that brand new car for Marsh Racing, Sonny Whelan's team. And he and Eric Curran will be a strong combination. They're running as they qualified. In 3rd is Dane Cameron. That was his best result for his new team early on. They were pleased.
Here we're looking at Boris Said. Remember, this team did not run at the Daytona 24-hour race, but both these drivers did. Boris ran with the Turner Motorsports team. Derek Curran ran with Leighton Reese's group, but they're split in points already, so if they both see action throughout the course of the season, they won't finish together in the championship, but they're still going to give it everything. They're going to be a strong combination.
41 is young Dane Cameron. We've seen Dane in Grand Am Series competition before, mainly in GT. He has done the occasional Daytona prototype run. This young man from California has made the move to Atlanta, Georgia, where Dempsey Racing is headquartered. He and James Guay have a lot in common. They're getting on well away from the track, and they're combining to be a good combination in the car.
Right behind them is the Speed Source car. They didn't have the best start to the season, but this is their home territory. Based here in Florida, led by Sylvain Tremblay.
Sylvain driver, and I talked to him the other day, said, you know, they're not going to run really hard. They know what it's like to get to the end here, and you have to really manage the speed of the car throughout the fuel stint.
That car at the Rolex 24 looked like, it looked like a sardine can that had been opened up. It looked like they only had 4 panels that stayed on the car, 4 areas. One of them was the roof. One of them was one of the front fenders. I mean, it was just trashed.
Looks like one of my old cars.
It looked like a transformer, didn't it?
Yeah, we see Wayne Nonemaker. He's going to pull double duty here today. Going to do the first stint here, hand over to Mamo Gidley, and then jump in one of the sister cars. Salen's team campaigning 3 of these Mazdas now throughout the course of this championship season.
It's appropriate that we drop back from the 70 to the 42 as well, because this 42 was last year's number 70, last year's Rolex 24 winning GT car. There's been a lot of business going on between the Salen's organisation and also Speed Source. They know that Sylvain Tremblay and Riley Technologies put together a great car, and they wanted to get involved in the act. Wayne Taylor keeps a watchful eye on his son, Ricky, who maintains a top 5 position. But Fogarty, the man to chase. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is presented on Speed by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. Brought to you in part by Burger King, home of the Whopper, and by the Capital One Venture Card. What's in your wallet? Pretty stiff breeze down here in Miami, and that has been present ever since we arrived earlier in the week. Weather is nice, and as I've said earlier, it's in the low 80s today, so that wind makes it a little more comfortable. We get you to our race analysis.
There you see it, 2 different classes, of course, DPs and Grand Touring, and most drive 30 minutes to earn points, mandatory pit stop window within the first 45, and typically the teams are working out their strategy within this 2-hour 45-minute race as to when they make that first stop to be able to split the difference the rest of the way and get through it on just one more stop. But today we're talking about tyres. Spoken to a lot of the leading teams, they're looking at least 1 extra stop here today.
Rojas looked like he had his hands full there, Dawson, pulling that car up on that corner, and he lost a little ground. You've got a 2-time champion leading a 2-time champion. John Fogarty for Bob Stalling's Gainsco Auto Insurance team over the Telmex BMW-powered Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates, the 2 rival teams. This has been a remarkable run. Brian Frizzell is really showing what this Office Depot Dallara with Ford power can do.
Up to 3rd, and he's been in the top 3 in most of the practices, so I expect a lot out of this car. They really need a good finish.
I bet you the boss is pleased, Chris.
Yeah, he's got a smile on his face right now. Kevin, you guys are going with a little bit different driver strategy. Brian's starting the race, and he's also going to finish. Is that break in between going to allow him to be a little bit more fresh than the other drivers?
We think there's going to be a lot of tire changes in the race anyway, which should give you opportunity to switch drivers freely. So we just wanted to have our quick guy in at the beginning, and he should be a little fresher at the end also.
Good luck today.
Let's take you back just a little moment ago when Brian Frizzell executed the pass on Paul Edwards as our top 2 come through by Steve Berthaud.
Oh, he got pinched there. The 67 car, Steve Berthaud was not aware the leaders were right there. That was a lot tighter than it needed to be, Dorsey.
Yeah, for this early in the race, way tighter than it needed to be.
Let's show you Brian Frizzell, Paul Edwards up ahead in the Chevy-powered Coyote. Where does Brian execute this pass?
This is turn 3, headed down the hill. Oh, you can see Paul right there get loose. He'll walk right to the inside now, I would imagine. Yeah. The 90 just offline a little bit, got into the marbles and stepped out.
Team told me this morning, the 90 team, that they had 2 fresh sets of tyres in their quali set. I'd have to assume they started Paul on the quali set, which means they have a few laps on them, and they're going to be less effective here relatively quickly.
81 degrees out, good sunshine all day long is going to play havoc on these tires, but it's really the surface, Calvin, not so much the heat that this racetrack poses really a problem with.
Well, it affects the tires, it also affects the drives in terms of the heat, the cockpit temperature, and also because the racetrack does tend to get greasy here, you're really up on the wheel all of the time. The car doesn't just take a set, it's nice and easy going through the corners. You're really working that steering, and that really takes a lot more effort and tires these drivers out.
Well, Calvin, a lot of these teams realized coming into this race it was going to be difficult on tires, and they don't have a lot of data when it comes down to the Continental tire. So some of these teams really tried to figure out what's the best setup that's going to work to not put a lot of stress on the tire, but also other teams saying, let's do a limited amount of laps in practice and qualifying. And the team that did the best job of that was the StarWorks number 8 car. They've actually got 4 sets of brand new tires for this race. So that team in a position that none of these other Daytona prototype teams are. They're going to be able to have one more fresh set of tires than everybody else when it comes down to pit stops.
You know what makes it tough here is that infield has so poor grip. You would want to run a soft setup and really have the car very compliant. Yet you can't do it because of where we're at right now. We're up on this 20-degree banking. We've got that artificial load on the car. You can't run soft, so it's very difficult.
This man here, Brian Frizzell, is a 2-time race winner. He had a stellar season in 2008 with AIM Autosport. He then went on to race for SunTrust Racing in the then Ford-powered Dallara. This too is a Ford-powered Dallara. And as far as Brian is concerned, he's got unfinished business in Grand Am Rolex Series sports car competition. This is a great drive, the best we've seen from Brian in some time.
It really is. Here we see Tom Nastasi. Great to see that team back. He gets out of the way. Brian got balked a little bit there, but you can't disappear. This GT traffic, it has to try and keep it clean, not make a mistake. It can't drive off the racetrack, but you get an ebb and flow here in this traffic situation.
To pick up GT competition, it is the 5th place John Potter, who qualified 7th, so he's made 2 spots. John is a Pro-Am driver, and he owns this team. It was an excellent qualifying performance. The team, John Bedell and Lars Giersing, were just thrilled with his performance, and he's got his big hitter Craig Stanton coming up. The only concern with Craig is he hasn't done a lot of laps on these tyres in this heat at this track, so he's not quite sure what the characteristics will be as they go on. But you can count on Craig Stanton. He's been a series champion before. You know,
right behind that, too, you saw the BMW Turner Motorsports. That's Paul Dall'Anna, another gentleman driver. Also, that's going to be taken over by Bill Auberland. So if these 2 beginning drivers can do their stints and keep those cars clean, those are going to be 2 cars coming to the front.
Guys, I had a chance to talk to Craig Stanton, who co-drives with John Potter in the 44 Magnus Porsche that you guys were just talking about. Stanton did do a lot of tire testing here, though, last December. So he has a lot of time on this tire, but under very different conditions. And Calvin, you were talking about how physical it is. Remember, Craig Stanton probably in better shape than anybody on this pit road, and he said, this is truly the most physical racetrack that we go to because you are always up on the wheel. There's always some input needing to be made, even coming off the corners when the car is relatively straight. Long day ahead here for every one of these competitors in the Rolex Sports Car Series.
With that in mind, he's really working hard with John Potter on his fitness level. John has lost some weight. He's now doing a lot more what he calls training. He's running go-karts during the week, some off-road running with Craig Stanton as his coach. Here we see the 59 car. Didn't qualify where we expect it to, but makes a move on the 40 car there. Nice clean move over Patrick Dempsey.
It was an awkward path, though, wasn't it? I mean, it looked like both cars didn't really know what the other was going to do, and it was a moment of indecision.
They were both saying, be careful, be careful,
yeah,
be
exactly.
careful.
You could see it.
There goes our race leader, John Fogarty, whipping through the GT traffic. Where is Rojas? Here he comes. Frizzell will be next. Has he lost some ground to Rojas? There he is. 1, 2, 3 overall and in DP. We ride with Frizzell now. So it's been a good, steady, solid start for the top 3. What are the thoughts of a 3-time champion? Here's Scott Pruitt.
If anybody knows how to get it done, it's Scott Pruitt. You talk about the 3 championships, Lee, but Scott, this racetrack seems like more than any other, you've got to race the track as much as you have to race the other competitors. How difficult is it for a driver to be patient?
Very difficult. You know, and that's one of the things, you know, what we're seeing with the Continental tire, there's a lot of degradation with the tire. The performance isn't there for the long haul. So you really have to race the racetrack. You got to be patient with your car and get, you know, kind of the focus on how hard you can push it out of my family at home without overdoing it, because if you start burning up the tires underneath you, and that's kind of what's kind of going on. You look at the 99, you look at us, you know, even with the 77, I know the 2 guys up in front, they're running about as hard as they can without abusing the tires, and unfortunately, that's just what we have to do.
You step over the line at all, it seems like the performance goes away. Well, you guys, with the strategy that you have, how many sets of stickers did you save?
We got 3 sets of stickers plus a 2-lap qualifying set. So we're great if we need 4 sets for the race. A lot of it depends on yellows and exactly what we're going to see with that tire degradation. What we saw in practice, we feel from about a mid-14 to a mid-17. That's 3 seconds. That's a lot of time.
That's the experience of Ganassi Racing. Planning ahead, guys.
Planning how you're going to get through this race. I heard a great analogy today, boys. They said it's like having a piece of chocolate in your refrigerator. Do you eat it all at once, or do you save a little bit for each day of the week? I know you, Mr. Fish, you eat it all at once.
I know. And then go to the start and get another bar. Look at this, though. Rojas is really putting the pressure on Fogarty here. Oh, he's off! Two wheels in the grass there, but he's still got enough momentum. He's looking down the inside. Pressure is on Fogarty. Frizzell is running good, clean laps. He's closed that distance now in third spot. He's going to be in the mix here shortly.
Now, the one thing about that is you could get punctures here because of those seashells I was talking about. The 0-1 on the radio has been told, go ahead and try to get around now. Go and be aggressive. And they will.
Oh, he pinches him.
John's not going to let him through.
Watch Frizzell. He's going to take cut underneath. Not quite close enough. Here he goes. Now it's all about who's got the traction off the corner. Who's got the best tires? Looks like Rojas may have the advantage. They come up onto the banking. Rojas may have the advantage. They come up onto the banking.
Boy, Rojas was able to put power down that inside. That's hard to do down there.
Whenever you increase that steering input, you're then asking the rear of the car to jump out, but he got the traction, gets the lead.
Now, you got to wonder also right there what John Fogarty's feeling as far as aero buffeting with that side-by-side side drafting, and then, of course, once the 0-1 got in front, the wing dumping all that wind across the front of the car.
Nice work. Just race the track and trust your spotter.
Voice you're hearing is team manager from Chip Ganassi with Felix Sabates, Tim Keane.
Good advice, too.
Good, clean racing between these guys. Remember, there's no love lost between the two.
Whoa.
Fogarty's really struggling. Fogarty is really struggling for grip here. Frizzell, I think, will be through in a second spot here. If not this corner, certainly he has more grip. Rojas locks it up.
Now
In traffic there, that could be a huge factor if he released that brake early enough. Look at Fogarty wiggling the car.
You saw the twin black marks off the back of the 99. He's really got the temperatures of the back of the tires are up really high right now. He needs to back down, cool this thing off a little bit.
Only 13 laps on the board, and we're seeing this sort of action, guys.
Look at the wing plate on the right side rear being bent out. Somebody's made contact up underneath there.
Coming by the fourth place GT car, Sylvain Tremblay. Let's take you back a lap. Let's show you what went down with Memo Rojas and John Fogarty.
There's contact been made at some point, we'll see.
It was already there at that point.
Yeah, it's there already, you're right.
Watch this. Fogarty just runs out a little bit wide. Memo tucks to the inside, and then you'd think with that steering input, he wouldn't be able to get the power down, but he does, Dorsey.
Yeah, that's what caught me off, because usually I've seen guys try that, and it doesn't normally work. Usually just spin up the tires. But here now they're on a side draft. I think that John's car is not stable at all right now. He's just going to let this happen.
It's almost a game of chicken at that point.
Yeah,
when you got to run flat out through this banking turn, and the tires are giving up their best, and now we see the pressure from Frizzell. Can he get that second spot?
On board with Brian Frizzell in the office depot, Doran Delara. He's looking for any way through. An opportunity on John Fogarty.
Oh, he's got a lift to keep out of the back. John's car is really, really unstable right now.
That kink suddenly becomes a big problem when you start to lose grip. Normally it's flat out on fresh tires, and as this run continues, that right-hand kink on the infield is going to be more and more of a problem for these drivers.
What you got with the Gainsco gang, Chris?
Well, I've been listening to John on the radio for the past few laps, and he's just saying he's trying to take it easy on the tires. I think we can hear him talking right there. He said he's trying to take it easy on the tires, but he's just burning the rears off. So Kyle Brown, the engineer for the team, is telling him to make some adjustments with the sway bar, soften up the rear of the car, but also make some adjustments with the fuel mixture, trying to turn down as much fuel is going into that car and actually try and take some stress off the rear tires by taking some horsepower and torque away from the motor.
And all of a sudden, Rojas has a 2.1 second lead as Frizzell is applying the pressure but still can't find a way through. And remember, every car must stop in the first 45 minutes. We'll be back.
This is the beginning of the new era, the first victory for the Daytona.
And the famous 59 is back. Magnussen and Pappas are giving it to each other.
And their top speed here. That's stupid.
Andy Wallace, Milcaduno win both Homestead races.
What a fantastic storybook outing this is.
We are back at Homestead-Miami Speedway, where we have some more history-making moments today. We will find out. A long way to go. Welcome to Speed's coverage of round 2 of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. This is the Grand Prix of Miami, where some local drivers are extra excited to be here, particularly Oz Negri, the first name you see there. Oz has his parents who have traveled all the way from Brazil to be here. It's the first time his mother has seen him race in 20 years. The last time was at Silverstone in England. So we hope that Oz and the Mike Shank team and John Pugh have a good day. The 10 is in.
21 minutes into this event, 22 minutes, let's call it. Ricky Taylor on pit road number 10. 4 new tires going on. He's been on the radio saying
we are going to have new tires.
way loose out there on the racetrack. Came in 4 sticker tires on the 10.
Well, that's had a similar strategy last year. Dorsey had problems keeping the tires underneath this race car.
Now, leaders at start finish now, we have to stay ahead.
Got to stay on that lead lap. That is critical.
Ricky is the leader. He's got 2 GT cars between him and you.
Cost you about 35 seconds just to roll down pit lane. The difference between staying on the racetrack and coming in the pits at 45 miles an hour, plus the stop. So that's why he lost almost a lap here.
It's all good information they just gave him. Let's take a look at something that just happened.
Was there contact between Alex Popov and Ricky?
Yes, sir, just a little bit.
I think the key to this stop was Ricky was dropping back far enough. If they wanted to make that pit stop, they were going to go a lap down. So they had to make that call now.
And this was inevitable that was going to happen. Oh,
close to that GT traffic, dives down the inside.
In the back of the Corvette.
Problem is the GTs stack up a little bit slower into the corners. They don't have the same braking and downforce abilities of a Daytona prototype. So Frizzell made a good clean move on Fogarty, but then he had that GT traffic slow up ahead.
Hearing reports.
This is Patrick Dempsey. We had a report of this car slowing down, but it looks like he's back working well again now.
Copy that. All right, smooth and patient, smooth and patient.
That's the voice of engineer and crew chief Kurt Whiteman.
I feel like I got a tire going down in the rear.
He's trying to coach Patrick around.
And this is where you really have to
Copy
interpret.
That. It might be pickup. See if you can scrub it off and it gets better.
There you go. Talk about interpretation. The engineer is going to say, what does it feel like, Patrick? Which corners is it doing it in? Because it can really give you a false sense, Dorsey, as to what the car is doing in this type of slippery condition.
And what? Oh, look at this. Cutting and thrusting through the middle of the field.
Look at on the inside, the 60 Mike Shank Crown Royal car, but keep an eye on number 8. It's Mike Forrest, the Canadian driver, has made incredible progress. He started 13th and last in the DP field, and he's made his way up to 8th. Very rapid progress.
I love to say that's an angry little group right there.
Look at that. Paul Edwards again comes through that turn 2 area, having to use all of the road, and that hurts his ability to get on the power off this area. Look at these guys rubbing the 9 car and the 2.
Alex Popov's not afraid to mix it up today, is he?
No, but it's too early in the race to be knocking the sides of the car off and causing all that grief to yourself.
Well, unfortunately, the 90 Coyote seems to be going backwards. Brian, tell us more.
Well, Lee just spoke with Troy Fliss, and he said the car is slowing down quite a bit because they're on their worst set of tires for the race. They looked at 4 different sets that they had going into the race. They had 2 used sets that they were going to use, and he's on that worst of those 2 sets. So as this race is starting off, I think Paul Edwards is just dealing with a set of tires that is just done. So he's going backwards, and Troy's saying, hey, the other 3 sets that we've got for later in this race, 2 are brand new, 1's in pretty good shape. But you saw that 8 car, we talked about what Peter Barron was doing. He had 4 brand new sets for the race, so that car seems to be coming alive. And remember, they got 3 more bullets in the gun.
You know, every race I've ever called here and every race I was ever in here, it's always like this. You get these cars that drop back so fast. Here's trouble for the 67 with the right rear down. Or is it the right front, or
right
both?
Front
For sure. Yeah.
Steve Bertho behind the wheel. This is the Rolex 24 GT winning car for TRG. Kevin Buckler just flew from
Don't wreck the car. Take it easy.
To be here for a sports car program. Then we'll return to Vegas tonight for tomorrow's Sprint Cup race.
Kevin on the radio there, just trying to tell him to slow down. If you come in too quickly, that flailing tire will just damage too much body work and cost you extra time. And you have to wonder, maybe they got the setup doors to try to keep the rear underneath it. You then develop a bit of a push and overload that right front.
And it's this racetrack. I mean, you can't emphasize enough how much this racetrack eats tires. It just shreds them.
In GT.
Tell us what happened. You hit the tire wall?
No, the tire just went flat. I had a flat spot and I just wore the tire out.
Okay, copy that, because the car looks good. You're coming in. You're coming in. You're going to stay.
In GT, Jan Magnussen continues to lead the way. Boris said is second. And Dane Cameron is third. We've got a full course yellow. Full course yellow. Now, is it for debris? We believe so. Patrick Dempsey brings the 40 in. There will be a flurry of pit stops. Last year's caution was within 20 minutes from the end. It's a whole different race this year. A reminder not to miss NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot. It's 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. John Roberts and the gang will have it all from Vegas. Kurt Busch, Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart on the show live. Plus, they will relive those magical moments of Jeff Gordon's historic win in Phoenix last week. And we welcome you back to Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Patrick Dempsey just had an interesting moment behind the pace car there, and the Mazda went up in smoke. Looked like it was on fire, but we never saw any flames, and he got out.
Look at this. Blundell's had a great run here, all the way up to third. He got around the 99 car there before we saw this caution.
Pit lane, here we come.
Everyone now makes a driver change. That first driver will be good on points. They've survived the 30-minute mark. Chris?
Well, Mike Forrest has had a great run from last in Daytona Prototype all the way up to 8th. And Peter Barron's car. Peter Barron does a lot with a little, and I think this team's strategy of saving tires this weekend is really going to pay off. Ryan Dial getting behind the wheel, throwing 4 new Continental tires on the car. Sunoco fuel in, already done with the fuel, just finishing up the tires. Ryan Dial down the way.
Mimo Rojas in the 01 Telmex entry in. 4 new Continental tires, Sunoco fuel going in, just waiting for the tires now. Right front going on, the fuel is already in. Car's in gear.
Ready, go.
Well, they got out nicely, but not as nicely as the 23, the Mike Shank Racing United Autosports entry. Mark Blundell, Calvin called it coming into the pits, had made great progress to get by this car, the 99. Now the 23 beat everybody off pit road.
Good for Mike Shank's boys and this team.
Remember the run at the Rolex 24 with Martin Brundle, Mark Blundell, Mark Patterson, and Zach Brown. They finished 4th. They were the surprise of the race, and everybody was thrilled to see them achieve that. And here, on a limited program in 2011, more positive news for that United Autosports Johnny Walker Ford-powered Riley. Daytona prototypes come in first, and GT the next round during caution. That's the way the pit stops work. You're looking at Patrick Dempsey still stranded on the infield.
He's got back in the car, and they got a tow hook on him, and they're going to get him back so he can have the car looked at.
Whoa.
Now this happened before what we just saw, I think. It looks like that's oil, boys. See it all? I don't know if he got an oil line that came loose on that car, but he had a big spin on the banking, and that's the smoke. I bet you oil line came loose.
Yep. That's a hairy ride.
You're not kidding.
You don't want to...
This is what it looked like from Pat's point of view.
Yep, the view's not getting any better.
No, it's not.
57 has led every lap in GT. Jan Magnussen, who qualified the car on pole, now brings it to the Stevenson pit lane.
Yeah, split strategies down here, Lee. We had Boris said staying out on the racetrack, a bunch of Mazdas also staying out, but the Stevenson car that has led the whole way in GT, Jan Magnussen getting out, Robin Liddell getting behind the wheel. So this team deciding potentially Robin Liddell having a really long day behind the wheel in this Camaro, but they're going to throw 4 tires at it. Now in GT, there is no tire limit, so these guys don't have to work a strategy like we've seen in Daytona Prototype. They can throw as many tires at these cars all weekend long.
Wait, driver
so
change.
if they have issues later,
Go.
run out.
And the Stevenson boys convert their very first pole into another win.
Well, Boris has got a wave around here, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because when they're collecting the overall leader of the race, the DP leader, the GT cars do have the opportunity to get a wave by. But meanwhile, the Turner BMW is in pit lane. Brian?
Driver ID.
4 new Continental tires here, and Bill Auberlin takes over. That caution came at the perfect time for Turner Motorsports. Paul Dalla out, Bill Oberlin in. Expect to see him in until the checkered flag.
We should give some credit to Paul Dalla. He is improving with each and every session, let alone race meeting, and did a very nice job in late practice and did a terrific job in qualifying. He's handed over a good, clean car to Bill Oberlin. To the pits.
Well, Calvin, you were just talking about Boris said getting that wave around Mike. Did you guys make a bad call there and come to pit lane?
Right now, I don't think so. I mean, we got the 45-minute rule coming up in a few minutes, and so we're kind of anticipating that. Everyone else is coming in now, and by the time we come around, we think it's going to recycle. So, we'll see.
As Boris said, in the Marsh Racing Corvette, a brand new car for 2011. As Cal mentioned a little earlier, they did not do the Rolex 24 at Daytona in this car, but both of its drivers did in 2 different teams. Teddy Marsh feeling very positive about this new car. They're excited about it, and they feel that they have a real shot at winning Grand Am GT races this season.
See the difference with the GT cars, they use this 5-lug system as opposed to the single nut on the DPs. Takes a lot longer to change those tires, about 7 seconds longer.
41 serviced and sent. That was the second Dempsey Racing car. Track is clear and clean, and we go with Ricky Taylor, who leads the field. Look at Ryan Dial trying to force his way by the 01 of Memo Rojas. And then the Gainsco car looking racy as well.
Key for Ricky Taylor is he was on hot tires, so did he get any pickup under these caution laps? That was what will happen. It creates like a snowball where the tires are hot, just grabs all the loose rubber around the racetrack, makes it very tricky, but it looks like he's got him cleaned up. A good start for him.
Car number 5 is third in the line. That is David Donahue. That car led 120 laps at the Rolex 24, the 3rd highest lap count, but in the end, the race got away from them. They had a fire, they had a clutch issue, and a spin, and it all kind of went away at the wrong time. They're out to make amends and really begin their championship run right here, right now.
And this is all good for Ricky Taylor up ahead. Everybody side by side. Here comes the 99 up the inside to make it 3 wide for a moment.
Oh, Rojas, good clean move. When you're making that move and someone else is going to chop across you, that was tight there. 61 could suddenly have taken the 99 out if they'd gone for the apex.
Been a driver change here on the Office Depot Dallara. Henri Richard has taken over from Brian Frizzell, and then you'll see Brian get in later in this race. So Gurney has taken over from Fogarty.
Oh, watch this
Dial
guy.
has taken over. Look at Dial. He goes high in the Star Wars car. Maybe too high because he brushed the wall.
It's dirty up there. These cars normally don't run up in that upper lane.
Look at the 60 car there. Oz Negri looking for a way down the inside of everyone. This is his home track. He's got his mum and dad here, as you said, Lee, and he wants to put on a show for them.
There's a show going on up front. Donahue's under siege from the 01 of Rojas. That was a very savvy move. Mamo wants to make progress, and he wants to get ahead right now. He's got Blundell next on his shopping list.
Make no mistake, Memo Rojas is the real deal. When he had his debut season in Daytona Prototypes, he looked like he had a deer with the deer in the headlights type look on him, but right now he's got the experience, he's got the confidence to get the job done, whatever the scenario.
That poor 41 GT car stuck in the middle. He wishes he was anywhere but where it's at right now.
Inside, Rojas on Blundell. How deep will Mark go? He kicks the BMW behind him.
Oz just bumped back there in the back. Everybody watch this when it gets on the banking. It's going to go crazy here.
He's doing a great job. It's the number 2 car. Alex Popov is doing a tremendous job in the second of the Star Works machine. There's nowhere near the Daytona Prototype experience of the rest of this field. But he is really showing his mettle here in the early laps.
Oh, Dane Cameron, they just got together.
They did.
Richard and Cameron, and a tire down.
Yeah.
Big crash here.
Would have taken down that right rear tire when he clipped him.
Oh, what a shame for
That
Mike.
is a disaster. This car was quick here today.
Boy. Dane Cameron in the 41 Mazda was doing everything he could do to get out of that situation. And unfortunately, you heard it on board. There's a full course
caution of the day.
Brian will be devastated.
Oh, no.
I don't know what to say.
I do. I won't.
We were on board. We couldn't see it from the overhead to see who was at fault. But with the GT car, you can't disappear. You got to give him some room.
And Dane Cameron was in there doing the best he could do. You can't disappear like you say. And I knew when they went on the banking it was going to get fought. A lot of damage.
That unique steering wheel that Henri Richard and Brian Frizzell use has like grips within the steering wheel itself that are molded.
Talk us through the replay, Dorse.
Well, I knew this was going to happen. Watch, this is coming off the hairpin. They come up onto the banking here, and everybody's going to be jockeying for position. Now remember, look at Dane Cameron up there in the 41 Mazda. He's up on the top lane. He's holding his position, doing everything right. Now they're going to lay down in the corner right there. Not enough room, and it hit left front of Dave Cameron to the right rear of Henri Richard. Richard's tire goes down, and he hits that wall square sideways, which does a lot of damage.
So we see Cameron heads for the pit lane immediately.
Here you'll see it.
Wasn't enough, didn't give each other enough room.
Right.
I'd have to say that if anyone could have made the adjustment, it would be the DP car with more downforce and grip.
Well, Dane did what he did. You know, he stayed in the line. He didn't. Here's your reaction. Big damage here.
It's Henri Richard's first season in Daytona prototype competition, and he had been improving with each and every outing. This will be somewhat discouraging to the Frenchman. Meanwhile, the 41 soldiers on.
Yeah, hit pit lane, so they would have probably changed that left front tire at least, but did it get any further suspension damage? Chris?
Well, Brian Frizzell is just devastated down here. Brian, you had such a great run. The team trying to fix the car now, but obviously your high hopes. This is really going to hurt the day.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, it's tough. Henri's got so little time in a little prototype experience, so I mean, it's understandable, but it's a big disappointment for the whole Doran Racing Office Depot team. I mean, they gave us a great car. I can't say enough about this team. I mean, the car was awesome. I mean, it's just, what can I say?
One of the quickest cars all weekend, but they're going to try and get it back behind the wall and see if they can repair the damage. Brian?
Well, down here at the 41 Team Dipsy, James Gouet, I know you were watching the speed broadcast as well. Anytime you're out there with prototypes and GT cars, you got to play fair with each other, and it looks like perhaps that time Dane got the worst of it.
Yeah, it didn't work out well for us that time. We had a little bit. We waited for the wave by, and that got us, track position, but it put us out right in front of the entire DP field. So, obviously, that many cars together was really unfortunate. I don't. It looked like he was clear of everything, and there's plenty of space there, but a little bit of a misjudgment there. But we got a very strong car. Dane's done an awesome job. All the Dempsey guys have given us a good car, running strong in third there. So I'm sure we can get back to we didn't lose a lap, so we'll get back to the front.
Dempsey Racing not giving up. It was just a left front tire that was placed on the 41 for the 40 car. Talk to the team. They think perhaps indeed, just like Dorsey said, they lost an oil line, but that car is back in the garage. Don't expect to see it back out on the racetrack today, and that's disappointing. Remember, 1 year ago, it's the first podium finish for Dempsey Racing right here at Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Talk a little racing protocol right here. You'll hear the drivers in the drivers meeting be told, if you're in a GT car, hold your line. Let the DP car get under you, go around you because it has downforce. Well, watch again what happens as they come onto the banking right now, riding with Henri Richard. You look up ahead, the Mazda, the 41 car, he's picked the high lane. Now he's not moving. Richard's going to go down, should have left a little bit more room here, but right there they make contact. That cuts the right rear right down. Car goes into a spin.
And there is the reaction from Brian Frizzell after he had worked so hard to get that car up into third. It's one of those racing incidents, but one of those very frustrating ones. Thankfully, Henri is okay, but the car is not. Under caution, we'll go racing when we come back. A show not to miss on Speed. There's one of the new ones this year, Car Warriors. It's Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And it's pretty interesting. Sparks fly, they get hot tempers. There's a lot of hot shot challenges as well. And the All-Stars build. Guess what they build this week, Dorse?
What's that mean?
A tricked out El Camino.
Oh, you look good in that. Big block with a big old 454 in there.
I think I could see Calvin
502.
Anyway, back to business. Let's get serious. It's time to go racing again. And at the last restart, we saw a terrific passage of racing until that crash. Let's see what this stanza has for us. Ricky Taylor leads the way over Mark Blundell, Memo Rojas, and then Alex Gurney looks for an inside option there. Couldn't quite get there.
Again, it looks like the Red Dragon, the 99, seems to come alive early on cold tyres, or relatively cold tyres here. So let's see if he can make the move and get around Rojas, who's starting to put the pressure on Mark Blundell.
And these guys have history of bad blood, at least the two team owners and cars and drivers for that matter. So
how about Alex Popov in that too? The BMW-powered Riley for Starworks. It's the second car. The higher car or preferred car is actually behind with the 8 of Ryan Dial. Just got by David Donahue.
And he's made some big moves down in this braking zone already today. Rojas looks to the inside. Was he looking at, in the 99 in the 2 touch there.
Popov trying to get an edge there. A little smoke out of the back of the 99, maybe.
See the rear fence is broken on the number 2 car behind the right rear wheel.
I got nailed up the back pretty hard.
That's the voice of Alex Gurney talking about the incident with the 2.
Alex, we saw it on TV. The car looks like it's totally intact.
And that's the calming voice of team owner Bob Stallings. Here's what happened. Keep an eye on the number 2 and the red 99.
I did the same thing. He tries to move up the outside as the 2 were battling each other, 01 and 59, or 99 rather.
Yeah, the 2 car could suddenly not see the apex. He's blocked by those cars in front of, looking to turn in, and the 99 car wasn't clear. I don't think it was intentional. He just misjudged, trying to get into that corner. Oh, look at Blundell starting to get loose there.
Oh boy, look at it, 3 wide now.
This shows you the skill set of Mark Blundell. The former F1 driver does not race full-time anymore. He did great at the Rolex 24, and then Rojas just drives him off the track.
Yeah, he just didn't have the right to clear him right then. He had to keep it tight a little bit longer and just rams the side of Mark Blundell.
I said it before, let me say it again. Watch the banking this lap.
The 2 Shanks cars together.
Not going to let the 6
The 9's getting a run up the inside. Watch this. Oh, that's close.
I have to say, boys, Grand Am racing is back. Last year was a bit subdued. We were a bit disappointed on occasions. It's back. This is what we've come to love about Grand Am.
This is hairy stuff. Look at the 9 car and a great run around the outside. Terry Borchella.
Good run around the outside.
Action Express team won here a couple of years ago. But they were really in the doldrums last year after that win at the 24-hour race. Really lost their way. They've regrouped. They've got Ian Watt overseeing the engineering of that team. And they're going to be strong this year.
And finally, Dial gets by Popov. So the 8 sits there in 4th place. It's still Ricky Taylor. He's got a 3.6-second lead over Rojas and then Gurney. Now Dial, then Popov. Dial in the 8. He's looking for an inside option on Alex Gurney. Not available that time. Now a lap ago at this very corner. Talk us through, Dorse. Watch the 23 and the 01.
Well, everybody's going into the brake zone down here, and watch what happens. This is a little bit on the rude side, I would call it. As they turn into the corner, right across the front end comes Mello, and he just absolutely takes Blundell off the road.
That's not smart because, you know, you're trying to win a championship here and win this race, and you can't afford to be hitting cars that hard. Nemo behind the wheel. What do you hear down in pit lane, Brian? I'm sure the Shank boys aren't happy.
Indeed, Mike Shank not happy at all. I know, Mike, you were just watching it on the screen. Blundell having a good run. Car looks like it's going away a little bit, but then you saw the impact there with the 01. What was your take on it?
Shame on them. I mean, they got one coming. I already told Valiente, go get him. You know, they did this to us last year. To Brian Furcell took us up on lap 1. They damn near did it again. They're gone.
Homestead, it's a short track, kind of like Bristol, guys. I think we're about to see a little retribution.
Rub your hands together. This is it. This is Grand Am at its best.
The 01's got a target painted on it, boys.
Do you remember what happened last year? Turn 1, lap 1. And it involved Brian Frizell, who's had some bad luck today as well. Keep an eye on the 01 and the 6. Check this out.
Right there, just dived for the inside and just didn't clear Frizell. Frizell was there, he had nowhere to go. He just takes him out. Subsequently, Frizell had a puncher, took them out of the running that day.
You know what? I love it when the team owner tells you go for him. That gets me excited.
That's your kind of racing?
Yeah, don't tell me that twice.
Billy Orblin in the Turner Motorsport, the new M3 for 2011, leads the class in GT. Billy came storming out of the blocks earlier this weekend in the opening practice session, set down the fastest time that had everybody gobsmacked and said, wow, this car is one to deal with in 2011. Robin Liddell is second. Gidley is third for the Salins Mazda. And then fourth is Sylvain Tremblay over Jeff Siegel.
Did you say gobsmacked?
Yeah.
What is that?
Shocked.
Oh, okay.
Like, wow.
I'll have to write that one down.
Just trying to help your vocabulary, Dawes.
I don't know if that's a real word or not, though.
And Swift Top is.
All right, you got a point.
There is the Stevenson Camaro of Robin Liddell trying to reel Bill Orblin in. There's about a 2-second margin. There's the man, Michael Valiente, who has been armed with the task of go get the 01. Here are the important stats and figures. The Rolex race summary after the early stage. We had 2 lead changes, 2 caution periods for a total of 7, and we've already seen 3 cars drop from this event. Plenty has happened so far, and we're only 37 laps into this race. It's a time 2 3/4 hour event. And let's bring you up to speed with our race recap. John Fogarty in the Gainsco Red Dragon starts from the pole. Paul Edwards looked good early, so too did Memo Rojas, getting the advantage on Ricky Taylor. And then here comes the 01.
Yeah, power move here, got the power down early off that infield, and then just takes the lead away from the 99 Red Dragon. Frizzell looking really strong as well in the 77 machine right behind them.
There was a spin. Patrick Dempsey through NASCAR 3 and 4. He was able to get away with it, but we understand an oil line came loose, Dorse, which caused this.
Yeah, it caused a spin first, and then you saw it coming up to the stop with the smoke. That car's been back in the garage being worked on. Oh, now that was a big hit on the tire. Watch, flat tire right here, Henri Richard. Big side wall impact. Takes the 77 to the garage.
Into the safer barrier, he collided with Dane Cameron, and then this is just a few moments ago. Penalty handed down to Memo Rojas for contact with Mark Lundell driving the 23 off the track. There was radio communication from team manager Tim Keane. He said, Memo, this will help us win the race. This will play into our hands.
Well, I think he's just trying to keep him on the boil here. There's no way this is an advantage for this team, but they've certainly got a strong car. They haven't gone down a lap, so they just got to get their head down, focus, and get this car back towards the leaders.
But he says it in a way that you really believe it, you know. If I was in the car, I'd be calm now. I'd be, oh, cool, good, you know.
Dorse, Cal, you hear some people refer to that as cheerleading from the engineer or the team manager. Did that help you guys? Did you enjoy that?
Absolutely. I mean, no question about it. Keep your attitude right, and certainly what Tim Keane said there, that's going to, you don't have time to be driving the race and doing all the analysis, but for your guy to say to you, that's going to help us win the race, that makes it all the better.
Speaking of Timmy Keane, let's hear from him. Brian's there.
Tim Keane on the box right now. Tim, I heard you talking to Memo on the radio out there telling him to be calm and it was all going to be okay, but when you watch it, the car you had the contact with is not in the championship hunt. Does that make you a little concerned? They don't have anything to lose when they get back on track.
Yeah, it was totally his fault. I mean, he could have avoided that, and, you know, it's just the heat of the moment. He's out there racing, so, you know, it's our fault. We'll take it, but, you know, it could all play into our hands. This has kind of worked out for us before, so we're not giving up.
I know you've kept Memo cool inside the cockpit. Anything that you think could help keep Mike Shank cool before he loads Michael Valiente into that 23 and sends it back out on track?
Well, they'll do whatever they have to do. You know, I'm sure they're upset. I don't blame them. But hopefully they can race. We'll race hard, but, you know, we don't want that stuff to happen. But we got our penalty.
Here, you heard it, guys. They think they've gotten their penalty. I talked to Mike Shank. He doesn't think it's settled yet.
Well, someone who knows all about driving that 01 and being coached on the radio from Tim Keane is the new Rolex 24 winner, one of 4 successful drivers this year at Daytona International Speedway. Joey Hand joins us in the Speed announce booth. Joey, thanks for your time, and first of all, congratulations on getting that wristwatch.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Diff. It feels good on the wrist, that's for sure. And Tim Keane, he's a good cheerleader. He got me all pumped up there at the end of the Rolex also.
We know you so well from your earlier days in open wheel Formula. The career path didn't quite go to plan to Indy cars and maybe even Formula One one day, but you sure are making a very nice career out of sports car racing. Continental Tire sports car racing, Rolex GT. You did a little bit of Daytona prototype racing for Alex Job in the Ruby Tuesday car, but what was it like being part of that Ganassi organization and going to victory lane at Daytona?
Well, you know, I've worked, people have heard the story a lot. I've worked on trying to get in with Ganassi or one of those guys for a long time. When I was a kid, 15, 16 years old, I would go and shake his hand. Mike Hall, I mean, basically bothered him every time I saw him. I was like, hey, I'm Joey Hand. I want to drive for you one day. And so the opportunity to drive for him was, you know, kind of a dream come true. And, you know, the way it played out in the race was also kind of a dream come true. I mean, I was able to, you know, make some headway back in the race and hand over to Scott to get the victory, you know.
Now you look back, I look back over the 25 or so years I've done the 24 Hours of Daytona, and you look at memorable performances. Certainly one that comes to mind is Max Pappas in the Ferrari when he got his name Mad Max running everybody down. Your job after the tire contact, which wasn't your fault. I'll say that up front. There's no way you knew that tire was there.
Thanks,
but by
Doris.
hitting that tire and having to come in the pitch, you put on a drive, which in my mind tops and runs right there amongst the top 3 types of drives I've ever seen that 24-hour Daytona. I know there's people still talking about that. You put on a hell of a good job.
Yeah, thanks, Doris. I mean, it was one of those times where, I kind of knew there was a moment there. It was my time. If I could put the laps together and catch up to those leaders, then it would be something to talk about. And, it was a lot of stuff. My GT history and my knowledge of GT drivers that were on the track and prototype guys. I knew cutting through traffic would be really key. And we had a 52.5-second gap. I didn't want that thing to go green till the end and lose that race by 52 seconds. I was like, that can't happen.
But being mad and the adrenaline high helps too.
Yeah, they always, all my guys say, don't make Joey mad. Or on the Turner guys, they always make him mad, get him upset.
If you can channel that energy, it's a good thing. I mean, if you can just focus that in there, I mean, it makes some supermen out of people.
Saw Billy Orble in there leading the GT class. You can have a chance to drive that car again this year at the 6 hours at the Glen. But getting back to the Ganassi organization, we talk about the team and we talk about Timmy Keane, his ability to guide you through that race. What does Scott Pruitt bring to the table? He's been this team leader for so long. Being in that camp and experiencing it firsthand, what was that like?
Well, I've been able to drive, with some great drivers over the years. I had Boris Said when I first came to sports cars, and then Bill Oberlin I've been with for a long time here. And you get to learn from these guys. And my goal is to take a little bit from everybody. I'm not the same as those guys, but everybody does it a little different, And so Scott has got so much knowledge of so many things that I just tried to sit back and, I just came in and did my thing. They told me to drive, I drove. Scott did the setup, but I wanted to see his intensity. Bill Oberlin's one of the most intense guys I've ever seen all around on the racetrack everywhere, and Scott Pruitt's similar. So I just sat back and checked it out. Scott and I hail from Sacramento, California. We have a lot of mutual friends from our karting days. So we have a lot in common, and I fit right in. The whole program, I enjoyed the whole time I was there. Everybody, Tim Keane, Mike Hall, even Chip, everybody was great to me.
Well, we're going to ask Joey Hand to stick around for a little bit longer. We need to squeak away from Homestead-Miami Speedway to squeeze in a quick break. Oberlin, Liddell, Gidley. That's your top 3 in GT. We ride with the race leader, Ricky Taylor. Alex Gurney is second and Ryan Dial is third. This one has got a lot to go. A reminder about the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series from Darlington next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Things always get exciting. The lady in black. We'll see who comes out on top. That is the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Welcome you back to Homestead-Miami Speedway. We say thanks to Adam Alexander in the Speed Center as well, updating us on the situation at Vegas. Do I need to say, boys, have you noticed who's on the front row?
No.
Besides Matt Kenseth?
I knew you'd get that.
Well done, Marcus Ambrose in the number 9 Stanley Ford, making progress with his new team. AJ Allmendinger has had a good run this weekend as well. Meanwhile, we get back to sports cars on speed, and Ricky Taylor, who's been out there for 6 laps longer on this set of tyres, still leads the race by 2.5 seconds, Carl.
Yeah, but he's got starting to wiggle there a little bit coming through the banking. He's got the fastest lap of this race, set on lap 27 at 1:15.6, which is some 2 seconds off of John Fogerty's pole time. So that gives you an indication of how much lap time these cars lose with more laps on the tires. But he's looking pretty smooth here. Remember, the start of last year's race, he was on mild rubber. He did the same thing today. He's got to be feeling pretty good right now because it's been a miserable couple of stints for him up until this point.
Remember earlier on when he, that's what we saw first too, is that wiggle on the banking before those rear tires really started to go away.
One of the incidents of the race was the contact between Momo Rojas and Mark Blundell. Mark is out of the car. Let's hear his side of the story.
Yeah, first of all, Mark, congratulations on a great run at Daytona. And I was going to say welcome back to the Rolex Sports Car Series, but it hadn't been that sweet here at Homestead. Tell us about the incident out on track with the 0-1.
At the beginning of the stint, we settled in and kept the tyres in check, and we just started creeping up on people, making places. And I think by the pit stop, team did a great job. We were P2. And then when the tyres have a heat cycle where you slow down for a yellow, then come back in, they don't take to it very well. And I just didn't have the grip. And unfortunately, as much as I tried to defend fairly, the 0-1 car got by. To be perfectly honest, he could have done that move easily. He didn't need to knock me off. Totally unnecessary. But you know, that's maybe the way he drives. But overall, I still think the team did a great job. Michael Shanks Racing, Zach Brown, I want to say a big thank you. Jim France for letting me come and play in the playground, and hopefully I'll come back.
Certainly looks like you haven't skipped a beat. All the experience from Formula One in the Indy cars that you ran here. How much testing did you have in the Indy car on the road circuit here? Because I know the only time that you were in the Daytona prototype here was that December test.
I never ran on this circuit. We only did the oval, so we've had very limited miles, and I'm still learning the car. Michael Valiente, my teammate's definitely got an edge of me in the slow speed. But you know, I've got a little bit of investment, so I've got to get rid of that investment. I want to give investment away.
Well, Dorsey Schrader considers that road holding weight, and so I think Blundell will certainly be back. And guys, you got to be impressed. Out of the car that long, how fast he's going.
Tell him he wears it well. You know, you get older.
Speaking of wearing it well, there's a good battle going on here. Joey, your thoughts? Ryan Dial is putting the pressure on Alex Gurney here. You've got a Chevy-powered Riley and a Ford-powered Riley. Remember, Peter Barron's Star Works team switching to Ford this year. Dial looks good in third.
I mean, I ran against those cars at Daytona. They definitely go good in the straight line. You know, I mean, it's good to see the red car up there again. You know, those guys have had to struggle, so good on them.
Well, guys, right now the 99 and the 8 car running laps about a second quicker than the 10 car, and I just checked in with Bill Riley. He said when we took a look at the tires that came off the 8 car during that last pit stop, the right tire, the outside shoulder of that tire, there were some blisters. So they told Ryan Dial, you really got to take it easy early on in a stint. We do have an extra set compared to everybody else, but we don't want to have an issue where we potentially have a tire let go. So as that 10 car is getting slower, I think we're seeing the 99 and the 8 start to move forward here. And remember, Bill Riley and Peter Barron, they've got that little extra card in their hand, that extra set of tires, because these guys were very conservative in practice and qualifying.
Yeah, and their car's probably looking the best of the three right now up front, Chris, because Ricky Taylor's definitely backing up a little bit, and Alex Gurney's car is starting to show signs of not getting the traction off the corners. DL deep on the brakes, takes second spot away. He's looking strong. He'll be in the lead here shortly, but look at Negri. He makes a move. Similar to what we saw with Fogarty early on, about midway through a stint. That 99 car just seems to lose the bite, Dorsey, after about 15, 20 laps.
99 and the 10 both have lost their rear tires. There's no question about it. They're both backing up. Ricky, we saw it on the banking. We saw that little twitch on the banking that we saw the first time around. As soon as you see it, it starts falling backward on speed.
The encouragement over the radio to Ryan Dial was the voice of Bill Riley, the man behind the car from Riley Technologies. Now Dial is starting to put the pressure on the race leader, Ricky Taylor. There's another Pro-Am combination in good. Oh, there we go, inside, but there's GT traffic. Dial will push Taylor wide if he can. Ricky will have the inside run. No, he won't. He shuts the door. End of argument.
Ricky's defenseless. He doesn't have any rear grip to fight with, so right there was a good move. A very smart move with Ryan Dial, forcing the issue and using that GT car. He wasn't going to get boxed in.
Here comes Oz Negri. It's another Pro-Am combination. He and John Pugh, they also get that extra tire, that extra set of tires. Well, they have a Pro-Am combination. Now he's up to third and pressuring for second.
They would have got the extra set of tires, except for John had to spin and took one of those sets away.
Indeed he did early in the opening practice session.
Oh, look at Valiente here. Remember, Mark Blundell just jumped out of that car, so Valiente has the freshest tires, but he has gone a lap down, so he's trying to fight his way onto that lead lap. And then the 99 car gets the information from the team. Look at Negri making a run on Ricky Taylor. These guys are good friends. They've run karting events together down in Brazil just last off-season. And Ricky Taylor really looks up to this man, but he's not going to make it easy for him.
I don't think he has much he can say about it. When that car starts losing grip, it just... Well, look at that.
Laura down this straightaway, it talks about the low drag setup that it has. Very effective on these high banks, but just doesn't have the grip underneath him right now. Remember, Ricky Taylor has 6 more laps on his tires. There you see the sideways action from the 10. Valiente takes advantage of it.
Starting to carve his way through, trying to get back on the lead lap. It's Ryan Dial, Oz Negri, Ricky Taylor, then the 99 of Alex Gurney, and Alex Popov in the second Star Works car remains in the top 5. He has been the revelation of this race meeting. That is quite the drive. And there is his teammate Potolicchio, ready to take over the number 2. He's going to have to put in an equally impressive drive. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Continental Tire. Innovative technology, driving confidence. And by Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here. There's been plenty of adventure here today. Welcome back to Homestead-Miami Speedway. Lee Diffie, along with Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Brian Till, Chris Neville, and our special guest, Joey Hand, winner of the recent Rolex 24 at Daytona, aboard the 01 BMW-powered Chip Ganassi Riley. And there's been plenty going on while we're away as well. Ryan Dial leads for Star Works in the Ford-powered Riley machine. But check out this with his teammate, Alex Popov.
Not too much speed. He realizes he's going to hit the 99, gets on the brakes and has a harmless spin that could have been a lot worse. Watch this now, riding on board the 10 car. Look how close that was.
Yeah, he couldn't afford to release the brakes because Alex Gurney was still there to keep the brake pressure on with steering input. You're just going to go around. So very impressive run, though. He's learning the ropes, but very strong here today, that's for sure.
We mentioned earlier the man behind the name, Bill Riley, and some encouraging words for his driver, Ryan Dial. Tell us more, Chris.
Well, right now this team is working through a problem, and it's a good problem to have because they have 2 sets of tires. Bill, we've got about an hour and a half left on the clock. How do you look at these next 2 stops? Do you split it evenly?
I don't think we can split it evenly. We're going to have to wait on the yellows. So we're going to have to stop probably with everybody else and then hope for a later yellow with maybe a half hour, 45 minutes to go to put our 4th new set on.
Well, they're in a good position. I just heard Alex Gurney on the radio tell the team, hey, I just about lost it in the oval. Kyle Brennan came back and said, Alex, you get about 20 more laps on this set, so take it easy.
And that's not good news, and that's the reason why he lost 2 places. Terry Borchella has gone to 3rd, Paul Edwards has gone to 4th, and Gurney has dropped to 5th.
We talk about when the tires get to that point. You've driven here a bunch of times and you've experienced similar things as what the guys are going through right now. When the tires reach that peak where they're no longer effective, can you do anything about it?
No, and it's painful to hear 20 laps to go when you're almost lost in the oval. No, I mean, here especially, there's a couple places where you can burn the rear tires off coming off the slow speed, and if you don't calm down a little bit on your throttle application, you'll never get them back, and it's just a real downhill spiral. Also crossing, when you come through turn 1, there's a bunch of bumps. You can see it, guys, will start to lock the left front. And once you get one lockup on there, you got to be really, really tidy from there on because you'll just keep locking it up right to the cords.
You know, once this tires go out, this track is so physically hard to drive. You got to be up on the wheel so much. I mean, you can't. It's like driving in snow. You lose grip at the front, then you lose grip at the back, and
you get really what I call huff and puff.
Yeah,
huffing and puffing.
Clear work.
Here comes Rojas. He got around Alex Gurney. I think that's more a question of, or a case of Alex Gurney backing up a little bit. He said he's out of tires essentially and got that awful message that you got about 20 laps to go on this set before we can give you some fresh rubber. So Timmy Keene will be talking to Mamo here, just talking him through the scenario. They've got a couple of sets of tires left too, so it's how do you split that up? You don't want to pull the trigger too early. Typically, if you've got the lead of one of these races, and if we see a caution, pit lane is closed, and you lose that gap, but if you make that call early in this race, get that last set of tires on early, that means you're going to put the most laps on that set. Then if you see a yellow towards the end, the other guys have got fresher tires behind you, so it's a really cat and mouse game here today.
You and I were talking about that, Calvin. I mean, trying to run the race kind of backwards, if you want to call it that way, so that you try to get those good tires on as late in the race as possible. Maybe the last 10 laps would be a perfect time. But can you go that far? You hear right now with Alex with 20 laps to go, and he's already sideways on the banking. He's going to have a long day.
To Chris Neville.
Well, guys, just heard the team talk to Ricky Taylor. It sounds like he got into the wall up on the banking, and he might be coming to pit lane.
Ricky has dropped to 8th place behind Alex Popov, and he is on pit road. Let's show you, this tells us more. It certainly does.
Just a graze. He may have gotten away with it, Dorsey, but the handling's gone away from him. We saw it wiggle about 6-8 laps ago.
Did a really good job of keeping the car squared up when he knew he was going to get into the wall. Just got it and made it as minimal damage as possible.
SunTrust team have had success here at Homestead-Miami Speedway, but that was when they had a Riley chassis. They've found it quite challenging to get this Italian-made Dallara to work effectively around this track.
39 laps on the board during that stint, but I think after lap 30, the tires just lost their effectiveness.
Ricky Taylor handing over to Max Angelelli. A little bit of rub on the right rear bodywork where the contact with the wall perhaps happened. Remember, Ricky Taylor had been in the lead and then steadily dropping back. On the radio, he kept saying, I'm just out of tire. Crew trying to keep him patient in the car, and now it's Max Angelelli's turn to, well, be patient. Now, guys, do you think that's going to happen?
It's going to have to happen because that car goes off pretty badly.
As he gets released, race leader Ryan Dial comes across the finish line and will be right on the back of Max Angelelli again to compound this problem for the 10 SunTrust team. Meanwhile, Memo Rojas is just clicking off the competitors that he needs to get by. One of the Salins Masters is off in the dirt. Rojas is now up to third. What a comeback.
Yeah, very strong run here. Showed great patience. And you can't afford to abuse those tires in trying to hustle too hard in the traffic. You just got to let them come back to you. And he's done that very effectively, so a great run here by Memo. And I really, again, agree with Mark Blundell here. He could have given him some room, didn't need to create that incident and the penalty. So we talk about the banking here. I mean, this is vastly different from Daytona where you just got it pegged all the way through here. What is the sensation even on good tires? What's it like going through the banking here with the reduced angle that it has compared to Daytona?
Well, the other thing is it's got staged angles, you know, so you want to, you got to transition across those angles. You start up high, you come down to the bottom. So he's going to enter high. He's going to try and keep it flowing through there, keep it flat. Yeah. I'm sure they're not flatting it right now, but start high, bring it down. He's in the middle stage, almost to the bottom stage, but right there it starts to push, and then it catches a little bit and starts to go loose to the wall right there. And I think it looked like Ricky Taylor got push, and he let it push, and he thought he could get it, and then you get up there to the marbles, and then it just takes off on you. But definitely a lot different than the Daytona easy flat banking.
You may have noticed that we've just crossed the halfway mark in this 2-hour, 45-minute timed race. Time for a Capital One halfway leader acknowledgement, and it goes to Peter Barron's Star Works team and Scottish driver Ryan Dial. He is a Rolex 24 overall winner in his own right. And this car, this team last year when they had BMW power, had 2 podiums, 2 second places, one at Lime Rock and one at the July Daytona International Speedway event. And at the moment, Cal Dial is boasting a 3-second lead.
He's looking very strong. We just saw him get passed there by Bert Frizzell in the 61 car. Great to see AIM Autosport back here for this race. They're now switched to Dynan Power. And big news this week amongst the teams is the fact that they've got a new sponsor coming on board, starting at Barber, Gamma 88, which is a fuel additive, and they're very excited about the prospects with those guys on board in the future.
Well, guys, more radio traffic between Alex Gurney and his engineer, Kyle Brennan. Alex saying, I can't hold on to this thing. It's all over the place. And Kyle went back to Alex and said, hey, if you got to bring it in, bring it in. But the only thing I can give you is old tires from practice. I can't give you our last set yet. Right now, Alex going about 3 seconds a lap slower than the leaders.
The one thing he can do, what he's not doing right now, is not run that low line. Get up on there by the wall so you're not pinching the car down so much. Make it turn less.
Did I just say that Dial had a 3-second lead? Make that 1.8. Rojas is charging in second. He's by Negri, and he's after Dial, our race leader. We haven't seen GT in a while. When we come back on the other side of this break, we'll talk about Orbalin, Robin Liddell, Boris Said, Mamo Gidley, and Craig Stanton. See you in a minute. Time for another Rolex race summary, and yes, you are seeing correctly. Memo Rojas is the new race leader. The 8 of Ryan Dial came to pit road. Bill Orbalin still leads GT. We've had 4 lead changes. It's still just the 2 cautions for 7 laps. We only had 1 caution last year, and that was very late in the race with about 22 minutes remaining. Here is the new race leader, Memo Rojas, who had a bit of an anxious moment just as we went to the commercial break. Take a look at this, Dorsey, between he and Ryan Dial.
This is the break zone on the info. You see Ryan just a little twitch right there. Then we'll go into the inside, hits up on the curb. And just a bump, just a little wiggle.
Yeah, Mamo was just able to carry a little bit more rolling speed through the middle of the corner there, and we'd already released the brakes, and Ryan wasn't carrying that speed, so it was just a gentle tap. Shouldn't have done any damage to either car.
Kind of one of those waker-uppers, you know. Oops.
Got the
Pay
call.
attention here.
He got the call from Tim Keane, be patient, no need for that, and then Dial had come in to pit road anyhow, so cleared the path.
You know, you
for
can't
Rojas.
believe the difference between cars that have no tires left on them versus a car that's still pretty good, like the 01's got good tires still on it. You're so slow, you're such a sitting duck that it's easy to just run right into a guy.
It's like walking out your front door one day and it's perfectly dry, and the next day it's like icy. I mean, you have to just take it that easy coming off these corners and tread carefully.
Somebody who can give us the first-hand account of that is Ricky Taylor. He's standing by with Brian Till.
That's right, Lee. Just a few minutes ago, Ricky Taylor climbed out of the number 10. Now, Ricky, this is not the fastest racetrack in the series this year. It doesn't have the highest cornering loads, but you look exhausted when you got out of the car. Just how much work is it in a Daytona prototype today around Homestead?
Yeah, it's the ambient temperature isn't so hot, but inside our Chevy Delara, we're cooking in there. And I mean, every time you're battling this hard with so many cars and so competitive, you use a lot of mental energy, and yeah, it wears you out.
I talked to Scott Pruitt earlier about being patient on this racetrack and really racing the racetrack instead of other cars. Is it that fight with the racetrack that really makes you work so hard within the cockpit?
Yeah, we're just burning the tires off the car right now, and we have this fantastic Chevy engine, and we just can't use all the power. We're so patient putting the power down just to save those rear tires. I had a couple moments on the banking. I even brushed the wall one time. Just really working on saving the tires. I don't think I did a very good job out there. Kind of went too quick too early, but I know Max is really good at that, and I think we'll be there at the end for sure.
You heard him lead just a minute ago telling Max Angelelli, look, you did a 15.6. That's too fast. Slow it down. You got to conserve.
Yeah, words from Simon Hodgson, team manager at SunTrust Racing. And here we click to GT in Auburn for Turner Motorsport. And it's appropriate we have Joey Hand in the speed booth with us. Your teammate, your old friend, your good friend is doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, it's good to see Billy Boy out there in front. I hope they can finish this thing off. It'll be good for him for sure.
Talk about managing one of these races. Can Bill backpedal, or does he just want to run flat out?
I don't know if he has that bone in his body, the backpedal thing. He's one of those guys, like I was telling you earlier, I've learned from a few guys, and he's been the guy I've been around the most, and he's taught me probably the most since I've come to sports cars, for sure the most. And a lot of my intensity on the racetrack that you see in a lot of the Continental Challenge races and all that comes from him. So I think he's probably going as hard as he can.
We talk about the strength of that Turner car, but the organization has won so many races and championships over in the Continental Series, so bringing that strategy and expertise, you got a lot of strength there on the pit box, I would assume.
Yeah, you do. You do on the pit box. You do with the crew guys. You know, Will's assembled some guys there. You know, James Stevens, who was in the BTG days, and you know, he's just got a lot of good guys in there that make this thing happen. He's got a couple IndyCar guys working on the car, you know, from IndyCar days. So there's a lot of strong team members there, and it's like the Ganassi thing. You know, when you got a strong team, it takes that whole team. It doesn't just take drivers being strong. You know, you need everybody there.
You've seen Bill Aublin in the 94. You just saw Robin Liddell in the 57. And then a little further back, the highest placed Porsche in the field. So we've gone from BMW to Camaro to Porsche. And it is this car, the 44 Magnus Racing Porsche of Craig Stanton. His teammate and team owner, John Potter, did a superb job in the opening stint, and then hands over to Craig to put him in a very strong position. It's only the second year for this organization, and they came together last year in the inaugural year for Magnus Racing. Very experienced crew from a variety of other teams, and Craig Stanton started out as John Potter's coach. They forged their friendship and relationship, and they've grown as teammates within this 44 Porsche. And I think they're going to have a good year this year.
Well, they were super strong at Daytona. Remember, Stanton led in the early going when all of the cars were strong and all of the guns were in the cars at the beginning, so certainly showed some pace here. Now look at Mamo Gidley. He's up to fourth. This is going to be a team that I think is going to surprise a lot of people this year. Maybe running full-time with this team. They've got Catherine Crawford-Wallace as the engineer, and Wayne Nonamaker, he's been a big surprise. Mamo said, boy, I didn't understand how much speed that man has, and they're going to be a very strong combination this year.
Got prototypes around him, the number 9. Just making its way through. Second place in the race overall and second in DP. That's Terry Borchella, the inaugural series Daytona prototype champion and two-time Rolex 24 winner in a DP.
Great to see the 3 car here this weekend. Shane Lewis behind the wheel, a number 3 car, in deference to the fact he ran so many races and years with the Southern Motorsport Group. Sharing the car here this weekend with Henry Gilbert. And this was the car that Wayne Taylor and Penske campaigned at the Daytona 24-hour race back in 2008. It's the ex-Tuttle car, which they leased for one race, went through it, and been brought out of mothballs, and here we see it in DP action once again.
Well, not only is the 01 of Memo Rojas staging a great comeback, how about this car? The 41, it's the second Dempsey Racing Team Seattle entry. And Dane Cameron, who was involved in that contact with Henri Richard Dortz, has forged his way back into the top 5 in class.
I think basically from that crash damage, they had nothing more than a tire, that suspect tire. They hit tire to tire. So they came in, they did the change, and now it's just clear heads prevail. You know, you just got to run that car. The hardest thing in the world is to try to understand how hard you can run the car and not run it off the tires. That's just really a hard thing to do.
Dane is going to be super impressive this year. Had a lot of strong runs last year in the 30 machine, the Races Edge machine. This year he's got a full season with the Dempsey Racing organization. I think he's going to be really, really strong for the championship alongside James Guay.
Speaking of championship, here is the defending champion, Jeff Siegel and Emil Asentato in the 69 Speed Source FXDD entry. And of course, they're defending race winners in GT as well. They've got some work to do if they're going to defend that race win, and they're playing catch-up after some frustration and a poor result at the Rolex 24. More in a moment.
When you win the Rolex Sports Car Series Championship, you get your name etched on a trophy made of Steuben glass. When you win the Rolex 24 at Daytona, you get to wear the trophy on your wrist. And in 2011, if you win any Rolex Sports Car Series event in GT or the Daytona Prototype Championship class, you'll get, sure, champagne and a trophy for your mantle. You'll also get a trophy that you can pick up and play. Jack Higginbotham's the president of Paul Reed Smith Guitars. Now, Jack, you guys were involved in the series last year, but what is it about guitars and race cars?
It's our belief, firmly, that guitars and race cars just go together. It's a match made in heaven. So we've got 275 employees back in Maryland that are building solid body electrics, acoustics, and amplifiers every day, putting them out as best they can, the highest quality they can, that help to make that connection. So we're just really happy to be working with Grand Am, partnering with them again this year, having a great time.
Not only is that special, we had Ron McGill here today as our Grand Marshal from Miami Zoo. And he had a massive snake
Burmese python down there, about a 9-foot. Had it start finish line
to greet the guys and wish them well in their race, which I don't think I've ever seen at a racetrack before, but it was quite unique. This guy goes pretty good at a racetrack, Terry Borchella. He and Joao Barbosa, boy, you should have heard the positive talk earlier this weekend. They love the way this team is forming and gelling, coming together after kind of being fractured last year. They didn't quite know which way they were going. They've come together with a solid 3rd place at the Rolex 24. There's the Portuguese fast man, Joao Barbosa. He's ready to do his stint.
Talk about Ian Watt now engineering these cars this year, and he laughed at me the other day. He said everyone's talking about the switch from the Pirelli over to the Continental tire for this year, the adjustments that you have to make. He said, I was gone for those 3 years. So he said, for me, it's just a continuation really of what we had with the association of the tires before that.
It's not always a good thing, team cars racing one another.
Yeah, it's not for position. It's Darren Law in the 5, currently running in 10th.
Whilst we are away, the 99, which was definitely needing fresh rubber, it pitted, as did our overall leader, Memo Rojas, when I got Pruitt behind the wheel. But I think we're going to see, they might be able to squeak on fuel, but I just think some of these teams will still see pit lane for more tires. Chris, what do you hear down there?
Well, when the 99 car came in, that was right at the opening of their pit window. Kyle Brennan telling Alex Gurney, hey, we can make it to the end. It's your choice whether you want to come in or not. And Alex said, hey, I got to come in. I can't hang on to this thing. The tires that came off that car were done. The right rear was completely gone. Not much rubber left on that corner at all. So they did make an adjustment to the car. They disconnected the rear sway bar, hoping that that helped with a little bit of traction. When Alex went back out on the racetrack, John Fogerty came over the radio and said, Alex, if you drive the car like you drove it at the last stint, you're not going to have anything left at the end. You got to take it easy in the first half.
And remember that 99 and the 01 of Memo Rojas came in on exactly the same lap. Remember that for the end. Brian.
9 on pit road. Terry Bortiller getting out. Joao Barbosa will get in. Notice that the front wheel wells, the vents have been blown out by rubber that's been picked up on both sides. That's going to change the aerodynamic balance of this car. It's going to add some downforce to the front end. So right now, Joao Barbosa getting in. 4 new Continental tires going on. A loaded Sunoco fuel, and he's underway.
I've seen that, Brian, on several other cars, too, that those louvers are blown through. It shows you how much rubber is being spent out there. And what Chris was talking about was when they pulled the rear tire off the car, it was down to the cords. I mean, there was just no rubber left. This racetrack is like a cheese grater. It just grinds away at that rubber until there's not any left. And that's only one thing you can do about it. The driver can control it one way. Slow up the corner speed. That's the only thing you can do.
The right foot becomes the traction control. Essentially, there's no traction control on these cars, of course. And Brian talked about the aero balance that will change by those grills being blown out. That's probably not the right thing to have happening as well. If the car's already going loose, it's going to add more downforce to the front. Doesn't really add downforce as much, create less lift because the air gets stacked up underneath that nose. And with the grills gone, it's able to escape a little bit easier, create more downforce, in effect changing the balance.
You know, going back to my Trans Am days, Lee White taught me the only way he knew how to teach me how to conserve the tire. And basically every time we went to a test, he'd say, okay, go out there and drive as fast as you can until you can't go any faster and come in. Well, I'd do like 4 laps. I'd come in. He goes, what are you doing in? I said, that's as fast as I can go. He goes, the race is 40 laps, mate. He goes, you just burn those set off in 4 laps. He goes, try it better next time. And I think I made 6 laps the next time. And it's the only way he could teach me.
Riding with Max Angelelli, taking a look at the 99 of Alex Gurney, and the race leader is 1 car ahead of him. Ryan Dial has got the 8 Star Works Ford. Back up in front, Dial brings it to pit road.
This surprises me. Oh, okay, we're hearing now it might be an overheating issue because I thought tire strategy-wise they'd want to go a little bit longer and make that last stint shorter. Chris?
Copy, clear, shut in.
Yeah, Calvin, the last hour and a half of this race has not played out the way that this team wanted. Bill Riley had to bring Ryan in a little bit sooner than he wanted on that last stop because Ryan had just burned up the right front corner, and now you can see water just pouring out the nose of this car. It is overheating. Looks like the screen is blown out up at the nose of the car, so maybe some debris got back into that radiator. But you know, I don't know if there's a problem with the radiator or if it's just overheating so much it's just pushing water out right now.
Chris, I heard a crew member say there's a hole in the radiator. Take a look when it pops up. I think you're going to find it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because the screen that protects the radiator is completely blown out here. So as you guys are talking about all the debris on the racetrack and the rubber getting kicked around out there, one of those big chunks of rubber might have just hit this screen, blown right through and back into the radiator.
Well, that's a shame because this car had all of the potential and the tires sitting on pit lane to get the win here today. So for Ryan Dial, Mike Forrester did a good job in the opening stint. This will be a bit of disappointment. Here comes our GT leader, Bill Auberlen, hitting pit lane with just over an hour to go.
57 had come in as well, which cycled Craig Stanton up into second, Dane Cameron up into third.
The difference with the GT cars, they can run as many sets of tires as they want or the team's budget will allow, so they're not under the same constraints as the Daytona prototypes that only get 5 sets.
Auberlen to his marks. It'll be scuffed tires that are going to go on the number 94 BMW right now. The Sunoco fuel going in. The Continental tires that are laid out have been scuffed a little bit, and Dorsey, you and Calvin can talk about the advantages of that. But right now, Bill Auberlen's going to have fresh rubber and 59.5 minutes left to go here at Homestead. Just waiting for the fuel, waiting for the front tires, and Auberlen take this BMW back on track. They've been so fast all weekend long, even to the point that I think early in the weekend, Will Turner wanted Bill to slow down just a little bit, showing the speed that they have. Right now, the car is down. waiting for fuel. Narberlin will be back underway. We understand there's trouble on the track.
Yeah, contact with Mamo Gidley and another car, I think it was the 30 Races Edge car of Jan Halen. Both been able to get going again, both Mazda RX-8s. And watching with interest with that Turner Motorsport stop, Auberlin has just been released now as Robin Liddell is heading down the back straight towards NASCAR 3. So we'll see if those cars rejoin and that battle intensifies. What happened here? Turn 1, Dorse.
Well, here comes the 30 miles inside of Memo and makes contact, takes him around. That's in turn 2, exit of turn 1, starting into 2. I said at the beginning of the show that's where we'd have the most trouble today.
Both cars were on relatively fresh tires, 5 laps on the 30 machine, 2 on the 42, so it wasn't a difference in tire grip level that created that situation. Just Halen getting a little aggressive there.
Meanwhile, update on the 8 car we saw with the radiator leak. That's been sent back to the hauler, guys. That's a real shame for that car.
And Ryan Diallo, who had one of the drives of the day, is standing by.
Yeah, and just actually absolutely dejected. Ryan, this race was really playing into your guys' hands. You had that extra set of tires, but it just isn't going to play out the way you wanted.
No, I mean, I don't think it could have went better for us. We sacrificed all of practice so that we had a good race car, and Starworks gave me a great car. The problem is that there's so much rubber on the track, and it should have been cleaned by now. We got some debris from somebody else, I guess, punctured the radiator, so on to the next one. Disappointing. This was our day for sure.
Well, you guys, he's talking about the rubber on the racetrack, and this is one of those big marbles right here, about the size of an orange, and this is what knocked out the screen on the front of the 8 car, and then obviously hold the radiator.
Yeah, at 180 mile per hour, you can imagine getting hit with that. Go right through the front.
And we need to say thanks to Joey Hand, who's been our special guest here today. Joey, again, congratulations on your Rolex 24 victory.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure being up here.
We'll see him in that 94 BMW M3 at the Watkins Glen 6 Hour. You can get more speed on your iPhone or your Android phone. Download the free app immediately. Keep speed at your fingertips and you can fuel your passion for racing. Download the app from iTunes or the Android market now. You get all the latest stats, results, and commentary, and a whole lot more. Welcome back. This is the Grand Prix of Miami, round 2 of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. That's the race-leading car, but it won't be for a whole lot longer, Cal. Angelelli has been out there for a considerably longer time than the second place Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, he's got 22 laps on the board, and we have about 54 minutes left to go, so he's going to need fuel certainly, and he's going to need tires. On previous runs, Ricky Taylor was looking about 30 laps before he lost the effectiveness of his tires. So we also understand that the 01, even though they start probably within their fuel window, they've got a fresh set of tires sitting on pit lane. I'd have to think at some point Timmy Key's going to make that call if he deems it necessary to put Pruitt on fresh rubber to take away the checkered flag here today.
Yeah, he'll sit there and wait for a yellow if one should occur or whatever. If not, see how the car falls off or when it falls off. They all do.
Third place is the AIM Autosport BMW. We have to teach ourselves to say that this year. BMW Riley as opposed to Ford Riley. However, Bert Frizzell has been out there for a long time. He'll be pitting soon within the next 10 laps or so. Then the 60 of Oz Negri. The Mike Shank Ford is in good shape. Then Antonio Garcia for Spirit of Daytona. And then Enzo Potolicchio, the sole remaining Starworks car. Valiente is 7th. Darren Law is 8th. Alex Gurney 9th. And Joao Barbosa is in the top 10. Brian, what do you have?
You just said Joao Barbosa in the top 10. Remember, it wasn't long ago that Terry Borchello brought the 9 car to pit road, and he was in the top 3. Well, when Barbosa got in and left, they ran over an air hose. That necessitated a stop and hold penalty for 30 seconds on pit road. Barbosa now back on track and up to speed, but very, very costly indeed.
That's what I was talking about at the beginning of the show when we were asking if the 01 could ever get beat, and I said the Ganassi team doesn't make many mistakes. That's a big mistake to make. Stop and hold for 30 seconds just because the air hose was in the wrong place.
Yeah, there's 35 seconds difference in coming down pit lane on top of that, so you're over a minute penalty with a little mistake just on that pit stop.
This is what went down with the 9. Take a close look.
And there it is, right there, left front. Rolls right over the air hose. You see it recoiling right there, and that's a huge penalty to pay, unfortunately.
And Elton Sawyer, the director of competition for Action Express Racing, will not tolerate that. He won't accept that. He'll say, we're better than that, guys. Let's get our procedures down pat. Let's work on that. We can't afford those kind of penalties when we're in such a good position.
Well, see, that's a really big safety issue. Running over pit equipment, you know, it can get tangled up. You can pull a fuel tank over. We've seen that happen before. It can spit pieces back up into the other guys, the guys behind you. It's just, you can't do it. Just plain and simple.
In GT land, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The 94 Turner M3 of Bill Aublin and Paul Dall'Alana, they've come in, they've been serviced, they've sent out, and things have cycled through. Guess what? Billy's back in the top spot. He's got a 22-second margin over Robin Liddell, the pole-sitting car for he and Jan Magnussen. Speaking of going the distance, this man here, the Scotsman, will compete in this year's London Marathon. He's part of an 8-driver team. They're part of the BRDC, the British Racing Drivers Club team. It's on the 17th of April. Jan Magnussen was sitting beside Robin when he was telling me about it. I said, what about you, Mags? Are you going to do it? He said, listen, if I'm going to travel anywhere by foot or by plane or by car for 4 hours, I better be in Vegas. He wasn't so keen.
Yellow, full course yellow.
For those of you just joining us, welcome. We've got just 50 minutes to go. We've had a variety of leaders. We've now had 3 full course cautions as we check the Rolex race summary. Current leader is Max Angelelli as the yellow flies. And we understand it is for excessive debris in turn 4.
I wonder if they'll take the time to clean up some of the heavier laden areas with this debris.
Well, we've heard of that excessive build-up, those big chunks and balls of rubber like Chris Neville showed us earlier that took out the radiator, the air intake screen on the 8 Starworks car, and then more of it went through and smashed the radiator, taking them out of the race when they were so strong. We know it's just crossed the top of the hour. Many of you are just turning on. Welcome. Let's bring you up to speed with a race recap. Round 2 of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series for 2011. The Gainsco 99 of John Fogarty starts from the pole and gets a superb jump. Rojas in the blue and white BMW for Chip Ganassi Racing gets a good start. Followed John for several laps and then power down and went on by into the lead.
99 car started to struggle a little bit, getting the power down, coming off that infield section. Rojas takes advantage and takes it to the front.
This was a hairy moment, Dawes, for Patrick Dempsey.
Oil line came loose. He spins in his own fluid. Doesn't really know it yet, but then he knows it as he goes forward and has to pull that car off. Luckily, no fire.
This was a hairy move. Henri Richard flips Dane Cameron and cuts down his right rear tire and turns him into the fence hard. About 160 miles an hour is what the Daytona prototypes are doing at that point on the racetrack.
That car had been as high as 3rd, and then here we go. Ryan Dial on the move. Mike Forrest, his co-driver, did a superb job. And look at this, Dial just muscles Ricky Taylor out of the way. Move over on, coming on through, and this could very well have been the race-winning car. Rojas gives Dial a bit of a bump.
Little love tap there, no harm, no foul. Later on this run, Rojas would take it to the front. Then disaster for the A machine. Burst the radiator, they're out of the action for the day.
That brings you up to speed with all of the highlights. Here are the current standings. We are under yellow again. Just confirming we are under full course yellow for the 3rd time. Angelelli Pruitt, Bert Frizzell, that comes at a good time for the aim for the 61 team because they were getting very close to their pit window. So a good luck turn there for them. And Oz Negri, Antonio Garcia in GT. Aublin Liddell, that hasn't changed for quite some time. Jeff Siegel, the defending race winner and defending champion of the series in GT, looking good in 3rd. Craig Standard, and then the 2nd Speed Source Mazda of Jonathan Bomarito in the top 5. Everybody gets a chance to take a breath, regroup, and get ready for the final. What have we got, Dawes? 46 minutes to go.
Yeah, we're going to see...
Pit 2 open now. Pit now.
We'll see some of these leaders coming in. The number 10 car we just heard is going to be hitting pit lane. And for the 01, it's probably not ideal. I think Timmy King would like to stretch this run a little bit further, but he's going to have to follow the leader in, I feel. Get those fresh tyres on Pruitt's car. So big advantage there for the 10 team. It's resetting the order, and they're now on the same game plan as the 01. Be a little bit more fuel to go on board this 10 machine. He's used a little bit more in the tank, so 01 could jump him here.
He was only 4 laps away from where we saw those tires drop off on Ricky, so this is perfect timing for the 10.
The English accent you hear belongs to team manager for SunTrust, Simon Taylor.
Only 14 laps for Pruitt here, so this should be a real quick fill. And maybe the tyres will determine the length of this pit stop. Let's see if the 01 can jump the 10 here during this sequence.
We know both teams are so experienced and so good, Brian, at these stops, but the SunTrust boys have got to perform.
Top 3 cars are all on pit road. Angelelli to his marks. It'll be Sunoco Fuel and Continental Tires down the way. They'll stop going through it. They'll take sticker tires as well. Continental keeps rolling, but can he beat the 01 looking down pit road? Stop being done.
No fuel for the 01. They had enough in the tank. There's a problem with the right front, but they still get it done. Did he get that right front tightened up? There's a big bobble there on the right front with the 01. They didn't have to put any fuel in the car. Remember, they stopped with about an hour to go in this race. Now at the 46-minute mark.
On lap 84, they stopped on lap 69, so they feel they've got the fuel sorted to the end. And that was enough to get the 01 back out in front for the 3rd time today. We'll go racing when we come back. Thanks, Adam, and we come back just at the right time to get the restart, and maybe almost contact between Pruitt and Angelelli as they go down into turns 1 and 2. Angelelli wins that fight.
There was contact. No doubt. Look at this.
Pruitt back on the inside. He's not going to take that kind of treatment.
What a move. He was defending from the 90 at the same time being aggressive with the 10 and gets the position back.
And these two guys like each other.
Wow.
They have respect for one another. That's certainly correct.
And it's with much pleasure we say the top 2 positions are held by Mike Shank Racing. How about that? For all of the hard luck that he's endured, this is a bit of sunshine on his team in Florida. Oz Negri at his home race leads Michael Valiente. The 60 and the 23, then Pruitt.
And for Pruitt, when he gets to the 23, there's bad blood.
Negri has 20 laps since his last pit stop. Michael has 14. I think Michael will be good on fuel. Maybe a question mark for Oz, but the big question mark is going to be tires. Can they make him survive this long stint?
41 minutes to go, Brian.
Calvin, I just asked John Pugh that very question. He said, no, Oz is good on fuel. Tires is the big question right now.
Well, as they complete this first flying lap, let's take you back to the restart because it was frantic. Take your pick, boys. Whatever you want to talk about.
Valiente with the big jump right there. I think he gives that up a little bit. He didn't want to pass before the line. Here's where it gets argy-bargy.
Really tight there with Pruitt and Max Angelelli. Max gives him a little bit of room, not a lot. And watch Pruitt react here. Straight to the inside, dives for the apex.
Great move.
I bet Max wasn't expecting that one.
Nor was the number 3 of Henry Gilbert, who was in the hot seat. Watch this, riding with Angelelli.
The rules are you can't initiate a pass before the stripes. They've got to be patient here.
Pruitt had to check up, didn't he?
That was great driving by those two guys to get through that and thread the needle.
Pruitt had to check up to avoid hitting the back of Michael Valiente, and Angelelli capitalized on that, but then it was a super move. Look at Valiente, he's not letting the 01 by. He was instructed by Mike Shank, go get him.
Big gap behind the 10.
Oz has dropped back. He probably lost traction coming off that corner there. He's lost a few positions. Here comes the 10 after Pruitt. But Valiente was defending rigorously there.
And that's what I was talking about. He was told early on, do not let that, we owe him.
You're clear.
Guess who the sleeper in the pack is? The sleeper in the pack is car number 90, Antonio Garcia. It's that black and blue car right there. They came through on that last cycle of pit stops, and the Chevy-powered Coyote looks good.
Garcia has been really strong. He doesn't have many laps. I spoke to the team in the car this weekend, really allowing Paul Edwards to do the brunt of the setup work. Garcia got in the car this morning for the warm-up, did a couple of laps, nearly a second clear of the field. The car is strong.
Michael Valiente, Scott Pruitt, here comes Garcia. Contact with he and Oz Negri.
Negri didn't see him.
no.
That's over with for the 90.
And it's over with for the 60.
Damage to the right rear corner.
I was in.
It's the voice of the Spaniard saying, I was there, I was in. Big lockup from Michael Valiente.
Watch Pruitt here. He's got to time it. He's got to time it. He's got to get the power down.
Full course. Woo. Woo. It's going to be fun.
It's just frantic. That's such a shame with the 90 and Oz there because they should have been able to get through that corner cleanly. Yeah. I'm sure Garcia will be very, very frustrated. He's a very quiet young man, but look at the damage there.
on my rear lap.
And for the
Completely.
second consecutive meeting this year, the 90 finishes with heavy, heavy damage.
I think there's a question there, Dorsey, that Negri just did not have the grip of these other guys with the extra laps on his tires. He was struggling there, but just trying to hang on as best he could, but probably should have let Garcia go.
I agree. What happened was he slipped up when he got on the throttle. The car jumped sideways, set off that whole chain reaction. We'll take a look at it again. Remember, Oz is on the older tires of the bunch. Here goes Antonio to the inside. He is clearly there. I don't think Oz knew it. They hit there, and this is where it gets bad. That's unfortunate, as you said, Calvin, for both of those teams and both those cars. The 90 with the worst of it.
The reason why we're under this fourth full course yellow. They'll need to go and assist Antonio Garcia, the stranded Coyote there. What we'll do is what we normally do. We will go to a break, use this yellow to squeeze in a commercial break. When we come back, hopefully it's perfect timing to go racing. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Continental Tire. Innovative technology, driving confidence. And by Sunoco, the official fuel of Grand Am and fuel provider to 40 other racing series. We're back here at Homestead-Miami Speedway in southern Florida. That is the Spanish driver Antonio Garcia, a Rolex 24 winner, a Le Mans 24 winner, highly experienced driver, and he was on the charge. Unfortunately, there was contact between he and Oz Negri of Mike Shank Racing, and the Spirit of Daytona car will not finish today's race.
You know, and Antonio, it was not his fault, this wreck. He did what he had to do. Oz just didn't see it.
Let's go to Spirit of Daytona now. Chris Neville is there.
Well, Antonio Garcia's teammate Paul Edwards is sitting up on the box, and you guys were in a really good position. You saw the replay. What do you think of that incident?
I mean, I think it was pretty clear. It wasn't even one of those close what-ifs. No tire smoke. I mean, he was all the way alongside him before, like way before the turn-in point. And 60 car with Oz in it. I don't know what he was thinking, or he didn't see him, but just turned straight down into us and destroyed the car. I mean, we were on for a good result. It was important for the team after all their hard work at Daytona, coming here, getting the car back together. We had a strong car for a podium. Just went like that. It's too bad.
This team really seems to have turned a corner. Your thoughts on the season ahead?
Yeah, I mean, this team's incredible. I mean, I'm lucky to be a part of it. Going to Barber, we know we have a car that has the potential to win. The Chevrolet is running awesome. I mean, we got the power, we got the car, we got the team. So for this result to take some more points away from us, what can you say?
Yeah, I think we're going to see good things out of this team this season, but they are already looking at next year, developing a car with Pratt and Miller.
Well, disappointment down here in Mike Shank Racing as well. United Autosports. Now, the 60 car, Oz Negri, just had a problem on track. That's going to be aggravated by a drive-through penalty, we hear. But, Mike, I know you were so aggravated earlier with the contact with the 0-1 car, but now as we look at the board with 32 minutes to go, your 23 is up in the lead. Is it still time for payback, or is it time to win a race?
We won't be pushed around, I can tell you that. Will not push around. Johnny Walker car's been done a great job. Got to thank Zach Brown, United Autosports, for coming on board at the last minute. Zach's home a little bit sick right now, so I hope he's better. We've told Mike to hold on. He got 10 laps, and our tires will equalize then, so hopefully we have a shot.
Hopefully they have a shot. You heard him say we won't be pushed around, but the 60 now out of the fight with a drive-through penalty.
So there you have it. It's all setting up for a nice boiling point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Michael's got 12 more laps on his tires than Pruitt does. So what Michael Shank is talking about, he's saying basically they'll plateau. Once you get a few laps underneath them, no one will really have an advantage. But I think then at the end of that run, if it does go that far, with Valiente still in the lead, then I think we'll have another effect, Dorsey, when he gets about 30 laps on those tires.
Yeah, and the whole thing for Scott, if Scott knows that, is to get by before that all happens. And for Michael, of course, to keep that from happening.
Several years ago, the man leading this race, the Canadian Michael Valiente, when he was driving for Finlay Motorsports, things merged between Finlay Motorsports and Ganassi. So Michael actually drove for that organization for a short period of time, and it wasn't exactly a warm and fuzzy relationship. So there is a little bit of feeling. That's what we're talking about. There's feeling between these two camps, in addition to what has already gone down today and 12 months ago here at this very circuit. So that's the reason why things are escalating a little bit, and there is perhaps a little more passion than usual. Need to give you a heads up tomorrow on Speed. of course, at 9 p.m. the usual time. Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. Dave is back after an enjoyable off-season, and he is ready to crank things up again. Kevin Swindell will be one of the featured guests, two-time Chili Bowl Nationals winner, and he won the most recent one in a thriller over his dad, which was a good one. Did you see that, Dawes?
Yeah, it was really good. I raced with his dad a couple different times.
We've seen the strategy playing out with the DP field in GT. Two of the leading cars here today, the 57 and the 70, just made a call. They brought those cars to pit lane, fresh rubber on those cars. Meanwhile, Billy Oberlin continues to lead the GT field. Is there enough time in this race for these guys, just under 30 minutes, to make their way back to the front? Talking about the 57 of Liddell and the number 70 car.
Well, they just lost at least another lap as the lights have come back on. They found some more debris out there they want to attend to. So this, we will not get the green this lap.
Tell us more about the 69, Chris.
Calvin, I just didn't want you guys to miss, but that last caution we had just a couple laps ago, it was the 69 that came in for fresh rubber, so I think it's the 94 right now. Bill Oberlin is the one car up in that lead 5 that is out there on older rubber compared to all the other cars right behind him, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this last half an hour or 29 minutes plays out at the front of the GT pack.
In GT, it's this car here, Bill Oberlin for Turner Motorsport, the new M3. Then Jeff Siegel, as Chris was just talking about. Craig Stanton is 4th, James Gouet, Jordan Taylor, Robin Liddell, and then Jonathan Bomarito. But there are other cars in between them. It's not that simple. It's not exactly in that order. With time running out, just under half an hour left, 28 minutes to go in this 2-hour, 45-minute timed race. Lots of good stories for Oberlin and Paul Dall'Anna. Dall'Anna did perhaps one of his best qualifying performances. He really likes this M3. Handed it over to Oberlin, and it's been very much smooth sailing. Jeff Siegel, he and his championship-winning co-driver Emil Asentado have had to fight their way through the field. Craig Stanton has capitalised on a good qualifying and good early run from his teammate John Potter. James Gouet in the 41, Dempsey Racing Team Seattle Mazda. That's been a story because you remember Dane Cameron was involved in the contact with Henri Richard earlier in the race. However, there was no significant damage to that car. They've hung tough and are sitting in a very promising 4th place. And then Jordan Taylor doing a good job in the Auto House Camaro with Bill Lester. So they're in the top 5. Jonathan Bomarito is behind Robin Liddell. So there are some big players in GT in prominent positions.
Big question is up front. Does Pruitt have the immediate power to get by Michael Valiente? Remember, the United Auto Sports entry here this weekend is not guaranteed for the rest of the year. I understand it's 2 more races, maybe later in the season. So are we going to see that 23 car appear at Barber at the next round?
Mark Blundell has had a storied career, a fabulous career, more than most drivers could ever hope for. He said, I'd like to add one more to my list. I'd love to do the 6 hours of the Glen. I'd love to go to Watkins Glen and race the 6 hour there. So maybe we might see that car there. Who knows? Stacking up now. We're getting ready to see the green, and you could see some fireworks amongst these top 3. Don't discount Darren Law either. He's enjoyed success here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. You got the 61 there of Bert Frizzell. All cleaned, all serviced, all ready to go. Then Enzo Potolicchio, then Alex Gurney, Joao Barbosa, and then Oz Negri.
Oh, Michael's got him really slow here. Look, everybody's getting itchy.
Green's the call. Clear track ahead. Let's go for it, boys.
Good strategy there by Michael Valiente. He didn't allow Pruitt to be so close. If he can get through these next couple of corners cleanly, maybe he can get into a groove, get these tyres up to temp, get the tyre pressures up, then lay down some laps. Maybe Mike Shank's prophecy of the tyres all equalising here may come to fruition, but Pruitt has been awfully strong. The 01 car has been strong here today.
I like the way Valiente controlled that pace, though. He did exactly what he needed to do to protect his situation anyway.
Michael has 12 more laps on his tyres than all 5 cars immediately behind him. That will be a factor.
He's not going to be a likable person when it comes to letting Pruitt by, however.
No. As you said, there's not a lot of love between these two guys. How patient will Pruitt be? Will he try and make it early, or will he wait and see where the weakness is in the 23 car, if there is one?
You know, I've raced against Scott many, many times as teammate and as opponent. You can mess with him to a degree, but he'll come back at you if he needs to.
That move he made on Angelelli on the opening lap of that restart was phenomenal. Getting the position taken away and immediately gone back. Now we look at the Delara here. Wow, does this car have some life in it?
What happened there? He just drove around like Scott wasn't even out.
Wow. Talk about that Dallara having a little bit less drag in the car, but he made that look awfully easy. Is Pruitt just being patient here? Is Timmy Keane telling him, or is Scott deciding to just back it off a little bit and save some tires? Maybe we'll all get stacked up again. Does he want to just save this car for the last 10 minutes, Brian?
Just heard Timmy Keane on the radio talking to Scott Pruitt. When Pruitt came onto the oval and you saw Angelelli go by, Pruitt sounded surprised, and he said, he just drove right by me. Timmy Keane came on the radio and said, well, we'll drive right back by him in about 10 laps. Just be patient, Scott. So right now, Pruitt surprised, without a doubt, by the speed of Angelelli.
Surprised me.
It's been the constant message, has it, not only from Ganassi team manager Tim Keane, but right across the board. Be patient, be patient.
Now, Max,
hang in there.
What a great story this is in the back of this lead five here, the 61 car. Return interaction. They've seen no off-season activity. They didn't run at the Daytona 24-hour race, however, both drivers did. But what a great run here to be in the top 5 in the late going. Good job, Ian Willis and the boys.
I think equally as impressive as that is car number 2 from Starworks. Enzo Potolicchio and Alex Popov, they've been in everything today, and they're still sitting in 6th place ahead of the 2-time champions, Gainscoe, Bob Stallings racing in the 99, and then Barbosa and Negri. Further back in GT, we pick up the 07 of Gunter Schaldak, and he's trying to be respectful to the other drivers while trying to go ahead. The 57 is trying to make his way through. The 30 is making life a little difficult for the 69 of Jeff Siegel. Scrambling going on in the pack. Siegel from the inside.
Look at
Stanton almost hit the 30 Races Edge car, and Rob Liddell says, thanks so much. I gained a position. I'm going to get another one.
That's tyres for you right there, Dorsey. Look at this 57 making the power moves. It's got traction. It's got grip. He's heading to the front.
I think they did make contact. I think they rubbed across the nose to tail. But Rob Liddell just says, okay, guys, perfect. Let me through. That could have been a big moment right back there.
GM Power in this GT class has a phenomenal history at this racetrack, particularly with Paul Edwards and Kelly Collins and Leighton Reese and Banner Racing.
Watch this again. Craig Stanton is the one that really almost gets himself into a big bind here. Right here, they touch. You see the wiggle at the back of the 30. They put Craig wide.
This is the view from Jeff Siegel. Jan Halen in the 30. He goes to the high side. Craig Stanton in that 44 is kind of in the middle of all of this.
Oh, that was getting close.
That was a good save by Craig, just keeping it on the black stuff and not hitting that grass. You'd be off and lose several positions up front. Is Angelelli using these tires too hard? Would see him go off over about 30 laps. Is he making the right moves?
The biggest figure, the most important figure, there's less than 23 minutes to go. Can Valiente hang on? One of the new shows on the network is Car Warriors. Have you seen it? If not, you should. It's Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. This week, all the stars are building a tricked out El Camino. Well worth watching. Car Warriors, Wednesdays at 9. And look at this. The countdown is on. Oh, what a shame. One of the front-running GT cars has a problem. Robin Liddell. Is it right? Is it...
yeah. He had contact with the 07
right
here.
Tire failure, maybe.
He had contact with the 07 whilst we were away, coming through the infield section. Gunter Schaldak behind the wheel of the 07 at the time. Here we see a run for the lead here. Angelelli right where he took advantage of Pruitt. Very strong there through the mid part of the oval. Valiente trying to hang on. One of the smoothest drivers out there. Can he make these tires last?
These two used to be teammates in the SunTrust team. Valiente, in fact, won the first race for Dallara with Max Angelelli at Infineon Raceway back in 08. So they know each other's driving style as well. And Angelelli defensive. Is that super defensive? And here's Darren
look at
Law
this.
on the
Darren Law around the outside.
Nice shot for Darren Law. Gave it a go.
Angelelli said, you've done that once to me today. You're not going to do it again. Look at Bert Frizzell. Trade some paint there.
Bert tried to capitalize and couldn't quite get there enough. And the man sitting patiently is in third, 0-1. Scott Pruitt. Keep an eye on that blue and white BMW-powered Riley.
Mike Valiente'd like to be saving his tires a little bit right now, but he can't.
He's telling Pruitt that will be strong to the end. Pruitt didn't get by. Pruitt looking.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. The Max, the axe on the inside. Valiente's making it tight, but he can't.
Which way Pruitt go? He goes inside too.
Pruitt's gone as well. Did Pruitt get on the power earlier than Max Angelelli? I don't think so. It's pretty equal. Good move by Max there, very late on the brakes. Valiente was defensive there. Good clean running. Something with the 0-1 there in the mid-part. Valiente was coming back at him again.
When we're in the commercial break, the call went out from Simon Hodgson to Max Angelelli. You are in charge, meaning you can drive this, you can handle this all the way to the end. It's up to you how you manage your tires and how you manage this final 17 minutes, 54 seconds.
Calvin, you said it. Valiente was a sitting duck on the tires. We were hoping he could make them last, but not with that kind of pressure from behind. You can't conserve.
We're done, bud. Broken.
Well, Robin Liddell has brought the Stevenson Camaro to pit lane. Looks like they've got some suspension damage to the right rear corner. This goes back to the contact between the other Camaro, Leighton Reese's Camaro, on the racetrack. So Mike Johnson just shaking his head. Can't believe this team started on pole, and one of the other factory cars took them out.
That didn't have to happen.
That didn't happen there, though.
No, because that was right
rear.
front.
Yeah.
That was right front contact.
Pruitt shadowing Angelelli. He's going to do that all the way to the end. Inside, here comes Frizzell on the inside of Valiente.
Yeah, tyres there are just going away from him. 12 more laps on his tyres. That is hard work for Michael Valiente. Lap 29, so it seems about 30 laps is where they start to peak. And that's going to possibly be a problem for our leader here, Max Angelelli. We've seen these guys have to change tyres a little bit sooner than the rest of the field here today. Can he hang on?
Well, Ricky Taylor in that car ran 2 different stints, and at both stints they went off on lap 30 and went off a ton.
There's a podium on offer for Action Express as well. The 9 car finished 3rd at the Rolex 24. However, it's the sister car, the 5, with Darren Law behind the wheel, in 3rd right now.
That team was so strong there. They combined to lead 157 laps at the 24 race. The number 5 and the number 9, so they really got their act together this year. Can Angelelli hang on? They only got 1 victory last year. That was at Lime Rock Park. And of course, Pruitt and Rojas dominated things with 9 victories on the season, going for 5 in a row here today.
Remember, guys, Darren Law last year set a new track record here in qualifying. He likes this Homestead circuit. So does Max Angelelli. And for Scott Pruitt, he looks to the inside. Remember, the 10 car seemed to be the only one that Timmy Keene was really worried about in the closing laps of the Rolex 24. And right now, they're certainly worried about the 10 car, worried about how Scott Pruitt can get around it.
2 very experienced drivers right there. You saw him go into the brake zone. Pruitt trying to get to the inside. Max wouldn't have it. Then Pruitt went to the outside, hoping that Max would jump on the throttle, spin the tires up. Max instead drove all the way to the outside of the racetrack, so he didn't spin the tires up.
That brake zone is really, I think, the only weak part of the racetrack for Angelelli in terms of where he will need to defend, because he certainly has the speed around the banking to clear Pruitt here and create a cushion through these first series of corners. Of course, traffic, that comes into play, different story, but I think that final brake zone before they get up onto the banking, Dorsey, is where he needs to defend.
I agree. 15 minutes to go in a race would normally not be that big a deal, but when your tires are going away, 15 minutes is an eternity to hang on.
Pruitt's close again. Look at him. He has got the grip. He's got his car working here. Will he try and surprise Max into one of these braking zones elsewhere around the infield?
Remember the 2 big questions at the top of the show. Who is going to manage their program the best, their race the best, to be there at the end? And who can stop the 0-1? Is it going to be the 10? Will it be Max Angelelli and Ricky Taylor?
This is where it'll happen when it does. It's going to happen in this brake zone like you talked about, Calvin. But not this lap, because the 49 Maz is going to be in the way.
The reason Pruitt can set him up coming into that brake zone is that right-hand king as these tires start to go away. That is an awfully important corner, because if you have to backpedal the throttle through there, you're losing exit speed, and that means the guy behind you is coming.
Chevy power, BMW power, Porsche power. 3 different engine manufacturers in the top 3. And don't discount Darren Law. That man right there.
He's running a little bit faster lap time than the other 2, but it's only because the other 2 are messing with one another.
1-2. He's really strong in the infield.
Simon Hodgson, team manager for SunTrust Racing. He said to him a little earlier, you may have picked it up, don't leave the door open, Max.
Absolutely don't leave the door open. Pruitt's better here. But Max gets the run up the straightaway, and on the banking, he definitely gets a better run than does Scott. So
you have to be smart here. Pruitt's a little bit closer. He is definitely closer here on the run down into this brake zone. Will he surprise him? Will he be patient? 13.5 minutes on the board.
Darren Law can take 2 car lengths away. He'll be in this mess too.
When it comes to the traffic, it's like a chess game. You've got to be thinking ahead. Where do I need to position my race car so that the guy behind me cannot take advantage?
13.5 minutes left. Pruitt thinks and then says no. Not this time. He can see that GT traffic up ahead, and all the while, car 5, the Action Express Porsche Riley of Darren Law, gets even closer. Maybe another car length or two. This soon could become a 3-car fight.
The trick for Max is he can't get held up on that launch onto this banking because that's his strong point. Right now, the 10 car has the legs on the straightaway.
Law's trying to negotiate that traffic. Pruitt does so very effectively. In GT, it's still the same. We haven't missed a thing. Orville, Siegel, Stanton, Bomarito, and Gouet, the top 5. We'll be back. The marketing one of the marketing campaigns and logos and slogans for SunTrust Bank is solid is lightning fast. Angelelli has been solid. He's been lightning fast. But can he be super defensive where he needs to be and hold Scott Pruitt off?
Pruitt is definitely faster through this infield section, and he's not close enough when they hit the infield section to be right there through turn 1 and 2. But from this moment on, Angelelli is in defensive mode.
Absolutely. Max is doing everything he can to be tidy with that car, not to move the back end of the car around too much, but you can see he's treading on thin ice right now.
Pruitt hasn't looked here yet. Will he surprise him? That's the question. Now he looks to the inside, not close enough.
Will it be history repeating itself? Because in that very right-hander, Cal, back in 07, a BMW-powered Riley at the hands of Bill Orblett put a move on Max Angelelli right at the end of the race to get victory and steal it away from the Italian.
Watch Pruitt. He's going to try it. That's going to be his place, there's no doubt.
But Max has to tighten up this corner. That's going to be the key. Can Pruitt get on the power a little bit earlier? But then the 10's car advantage through the banking section. Is it drag? Is it power?
You see Max drive it all the way out there on the curbing so he doesn't slip the tire. And he gets that advantage right here, but it's not as big as it used to be.
24 laps into this stint with the 10 car. We saw it start to struggle at about lap 28 to 30. And we got just under 8 minutes on the board. It's going to be close.
There's the GT leader, the BMW right there, getting passed by the leaders overall.
Anxious times for Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing. Can they hang on and add to their victory of last year at Lime Rock Park, build the victory log for this Dallara? Now a Chevy-powered Dallara in 2011.
Oh, now he's starting to slide a little bit. I think I just saw the 10 car start to slip a little bit.
You know, and
coming off that corner, and it's like a light switch. Once it starts to go, there's nothing you can do about it.
And if he goes defensive, he's going to hold up to 0-1, and then Darren Law is going to be right there because they're slowing themselves down now on purpose.
I think that call from Simon Hodgson, the team manager for Max Angelelli, was 5 to go. 5 to go, meaning 5 laps after this.
Yeah, you can see the 10 car is starting to twitch a little bit more. Pruitt's car still looks solid. Will that be enough? He looks to the inside.
Yeah,
Angelelli defends. Pruitt to the lead.
Got him, and Max gave him plenty of room too. He didn't fight it too hard. He knew it got to a point where he couldn't fight it. What about the climb off this corner? Can he go with the 0-1?
It's the only hope he's got, but I think it's over with. I think, like you said, Calvin, once you see it start to go, and once it goes, it just drops off a cliff.
4 back.
That right-hander on the infield is the key.
There
you see it again. There you see it again. Right in the same window. This will be the 26th lap, and it just starts to fall off that little bit, and that's all it takes.
We saw two stints with Ricky Taylor do exactly the same thing. Once you get that little death wiggle in the middle of the banking, it's over with.
Max was doing everything perfectly, Lee, but Pruitt was there to take advantage. Soon as he saw that little opportunity, he seized the chance.
Now Angelelli's got to keep a watchful eye on Darren Law because that 5 Action Express Porsche is strong, has been strong with less than 6 minutes to go.
If it follows suit, Max won't have anything to do with it. He'll be just holding on for dear life as that car degrades the rear end so far.
It's amazing. You could see it just a few corners earlier. Suddenly it started to slip and slide a little bit.
And once you see that twitch on the banking, I mean, that's history then. You got to lift. You know, if you get broke loose on the bank.
Oh, Darren really deep on the brakes there.
Watch him now.
Started to twitch around. I think Angelelli caught him out a little bit in how much he was rolling it down for that corner, and Darren had to really use the brake pedal hard to not ram him.
Watch the 10 car up here in NASCAR turn 4. If it gets that little twitch, he's going to have to lift. Looked like it did a little twitch.
A little bit right there.
You don't lift all the way out of the throttle, but you got to neutralize.
4 laps to go. 4 laps to go.
Sense the different sound in Simon Hodgson's voice there as he relates that message to Max Angelelli. Just not the fire in it any longer.
No.
Now the lead is gone.
And Max did everything right.
He did.
He didn't do it, you know, he was doing everything in the proper way to keep the car alive.
It's a great stint. They caught a little bit of a break with the timing of that caution. But nonetheless, superb performance by the team. Good job by Ricky Taylor. He had an awfully tough first stint there on well-used rubber, which he started the race on to keep it together. Kept it out of the wall there. That was a close one, but nonetheless, the 01 back out front. We've seen them there so often over the last 15 months.
It's not over yet, this fight for second. Keep an eye on the 5 of Darren Law. They finished 9th at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and that was an unsatisfactory result. They wanted more. They felt as though they could have been on the podium, maybe vying for victory there. It wasn't the case, but this will be a real morale-boosting result if Darren Law and David Donahue can stand on the podium here at a track where they've both achieved success.
Max, is going to be 3 more laps or 4 more laps?
We're hearing a lot of radio transmission and communication.
Yeah.
And speaking of that topic, boys, let's go back an hour or more to when there was that penalty handed down to Memo Rojas, and Timmy Keane said, hey, let's take our medicine. This can play into our hands. We can still win from here. And there it is. The 01 is in the box seat.
I think he was right. He knew.
There you
Oh,
go.
look at this. Darren Law to the inside of Angelelli. Takes the second spot away.
That was
what a
inevitable.
move.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Nice job.
You saw it back there in the middle of turn 4 again where Max wiggled one more time. I don't know how bad Darren's tires are, but I can tell you they're better than the 10.
Show you this move, how it looked on board the 10. This is what it looks like if you're Max Angelelli. Look to the left.
Ooh. And a little rub there just for fair measure.
Yeah, these tires have ripped the heart out of Max Angelelli because he was fired up for his first win of the championship season, but he's going to be looking at a podium. This car is looking strong though, Dorsey. The 94 car Aublin's been in there for an awfully long time.
Yeah,
we hear it may have some gearbox issues, so it isn't over yet. We're just under 3 minutes to go.
Oberlin's tires have more miles than anybody else too, but he really knows these BMWs and the balances quite well. The gearbox problem, they just told him to start taking it easy. He's got a pretty good lead.
They had a gearbox problem in the Rolex 24. They identified what it is. They don't know how to rectify it so it doesn't happen again. And it's 2 great comeback drives. A great comeback after the Rolex 24 for Turner, a great comeback drive for the 69, and also a thrilling drive here for Craig Stanton and John Potter in the 44 Magnus Racing Porsche. 3 different cars in the top 3 in GT. And there'll be some delighted people if positions stay as is. 2 minutes to go. 70 of Jonathan Bomarito in a much cleaner and happier looking car than it was at the Rolex 24.
Hey, you can tell what it is this time.
Speed Source looking good here today, running 2nd and 4th. Jeff Siegel, a great run in recovery mode, trying to dig themselves out of a hole like they did last year at a disastrous Daytona 24-hour race, but went on to win the championship. So they know these opening rounds are so critical to lay the foundation down for a championship run.
Comments earlier in the weekend from both Pruitt and his co-driver, championship-winning co-driver Memo Rojas, is it's very challenging here. Even though it's dry, it feels like we're driving in the wet. Maybe even a little bit more unpredictable than driving in the wet. Well, they have handled the conditions superbly.
Going to go 1 extra lap there. I didn't see the white flag, Dorsey, so on the time they weren't quite into the point where they were going to hit the mark. And sufficed the 2 hour 45 minutes by giving him the white flag there, so it was a little bit too close to call. They'd do 1 extra lap.
Behind Max Angelelli, things have really dropped off for the 61 of Bert Frizzell. They're just going to limp at home. They're 10 seconds adrift of Angelelli, so they're not a threat for that podium in these closing laps. 3 seconds further back is the sister car to this one, the 9 of Joao Barbosa for Action Express. Then Michael Valiente has dropped several positions to 6th for United Autosports and Mike Shank Racing. Enzo Potolicchio has done well for Starworks in 7th. Alex Gurney, who brushed the wall, we understand, a few laps ago, in 8th. And then Oz Negri is in 9th. The best GT car we know is Bill Auberlen in the Turner Motorsport. BMW M3 is in the top 10 overall.
The Action Express boys will be awfully happy with this result. You know, they've done a really good job this weekend for that car.
They've always been
Both
strong
cars.
here, but we always laid it at the hands of the 6-cylinder Porsche power. Now they're running the 8-cylinder. It doesn't have the same advantage on this Roval type configuration. So I think this result is down to the team really having a good setup underneath the car again, and I think it bodes well for these teams to have a good, strong season and not be in the dire straits that they were last year.
1 to go. It's been a big week for the guy on the right there, Memo Rojas, who was involved in a lot of media and publicity for this event, particularly with the Latin American population here in Miami and also the audience in South America. I said, hey, did you enjoy that media tour? He said, yeah, I got to meet the Telemundo girls. So he was looking forward to the weekend. It's been a very busy time as well. Good comeback drive for these boys. They'll be delighted. Donahue and Law.
Yep.
That's some sweetener after the Rolex 24.
Max hanging tough, man. Just going to get his 3rd place out of it.
But they'll be happy with this. They know this is not a strong suit for their race car and their setup here at Homestead. So I think for the 10 car to come away with the podium, I think they've taken that coming into this weekend. But when you've had a taste of the lead, you certainly want more.
I mean, the handwriting was pretty much on the wall after the 2 first stints. They realized they had 30 laps. Now, they could have still won if it worked out that way. But unfortunately, this last green run has been too far.
Remember the slam, the chip slam, the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400, the Indy 500, and the Rolex 24 at Daytona. That's what Chip Ganassi did, and Chip's boys do it again.
Great job, guys. Memo, great job, man. Great job.
Every year they have won here at Homestead. They've won the championship. Is that an ominous sign? 2008, 2010, and 2011 for the boys in the Telmex BMW Riley.
This one didn't come as easy as some, I'll tell you that. That was pretty interesting race as it went through.
They had to manage it, and they did very well to recover from that penalty. Can Billy Orblin hang on for Turner's first win of the season? They won last year with the M6. This would be the first one with the M3.
Huge off-season up there in Amesbury, Massachusetts for Will Turner's boys. And this is going to be a memorable one. When they won in the M6 at Mid-Ohio last year, that was special. This perhaps even more significant. Bill Orblin and Paul Galvana enjoy victory lane, and there is team principal Will Turner, Joey Hand, all the guys there to enjoy the victory. It is a BMW sweep, DP and GT. We'll have all the interviews when we come back. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is presented on Speed by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. And brought to you in part by Continental Tire, innovative technology, driving confidence. Plenty of confidence at the Ganassi camp. The 20th win for Pruitt and Rojas, and Brian, 5 in a row. They know this feeling.
They do know this feeling. It's actually the 3rd victory for both drivers here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Celebrating on top of the car, we'll grab Memo Rojas real quick. Memo, man, to end up the way it did after the problems early on, pretty spectacular from 8th to 1st in 19 laps. And I know Timmy Keene trying to keep you calm in the car. How difficult was it behind the wheel?
I was tough. I was not very happy with the penalty. You know, I have to look at the replay, but I wasn't, I didn't agree completely with it. Car was good. We focused on working really hard on practice with all tires instead of trying to set the quickest lap on practice, and I think it paid off today.
Certainly did, and Scott Pruitt in the car at the end. Standing there, and Scott, for you, you know, we talked about racing the track, but there at the end with Max Angelelli in front of you, it's like you sat and you waited and you waited and you watched and then you pounced. How difficult was it to keep that patience early on when you knew that you had the car to get by?
That's what we had to do. I mean, he just drove by us to go, you know, for the lead. So we just had to be patient. You know, the Ganassi guys did a great job today. Memo did a terrific job. Hi to my family at home. And, you know, it just came back around. We talked about it before the start of the race. We really had to conserve tires. We had 4 good sets for the race. It all paid off.
And in 2008, Ganassi went 1-2 in the first 2 rounds. They ended up with the championship as well. To GT with Chris.
Well, Billy Auburn finally getting to celebrate with some of his crew down here. Billy, you laid down a monster lap in practice yesterday. You scared the competition, and the BMW was just perfect at Homestead.
That's what Turner Motorsport gives you every single weekend. The new M3 is awesome. My teammate, I owe everything to him, Paul Delano. Without him here, none of us would be here. So thank you so much. Thanks to the great tires. They lasted for us all day. It was the setup was the key. From the engineers, they came up with a great setup, not about speed, about longevity. That's what it was all about.
Heard you on the radio saying some transmission issues in the last about half an hour of this race. How scary was that?
It was scary. And there was smoke coming out. Tranny fluid kept coming out. Oil. And eventually the smoke stops. And that's when it's bad. You know, we're now out of oil. Just had to make it to the end. And it did.
Paul, you get your first win in Rolex competition. You drove a perfect race. You've just got to be ecstatic.
You know what? It's an incredible feeling after last year's tough luck and my learning curve, so it's great to be here. And, well, what can I say? Bill did a heck of a job and gritted it out at the end. The team's been good, so really happy to be here finally.
Well, Turner Motorsports gets the first win in the new M3 on Billy Oberlin's 100th Rolex start.
Wasn't that a great achievement for those boys, capping off a brilliant day for BMW here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Let's check in with the GT points, seeing as how we were talking to the GT guys. Craig Stanton and John Potter lead by 3. That's how important that podium finish was today for the boys in green. Stanton and Potter, well done to them. Then they've got the Mazda Brigade chasing away. Spencer Pumpelly and Steve Bertha, of course, with their Rolex 24 win. Let's switch it up to Daytona prototype points and a 14-point margin for Rojas and Pruitt over the Action Express boys. Also on that same point margin are the SunTrust guys as well. And then Darren Law, David Donahue, a very valuable result today, keeps them very much in the hunt, 16 points back. So we've got a lot to talk about as we look forward to the next event. Fortunately for the teams, there's a little bit of a break to repair damaged cars, maybe get in a little bit of testing, whatever they need to do. Barber Motorsports Park is up next. Dorse, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Ganassi guys are leading the way. They have led the way, but it looks to me like the field's closing up. I mean, there was some really good performances shown here, and we're going on to 2 racetracks back-to-back where handling is a major issue.
I think DL could have been a real factor here. I mean, that burst radiator really cost them a chance at a win because his car was strong. I think he could have given Pruitt a real run for his money here in the final few laps today.
And we saw some great battles, some terrific racing today, some good strategy, and guys just hanging in there. We're glad you could be with us to watch Sports Cars on Speed. Next up, it will be Barber Motorsports Park in early April. We'll see you then.